All right, guys. Hey, what's up? Super excited to be going live tonight. Definitely leave a thumbs up, leave something in the chat. If you're here, you're awake, you're alive, because we're going to dive in. We're going to go all the way in, give ourselves a complete roadmap for filmmaking with Unreal. And I think now is the perfect time, especially for some of you that have dabbled with Unreal. Maybe you've watched more on YouTube than you've actually created inside of Unreal, but that's totally fine. Today, I really want to lay out an entire roadmap to take you from beginner to someone who can actually create films, what I've been calling an Unreal filmmaker, because right now it's just the most, to me, it's the most fun. We'll go in, we'll show some of the new stuff I've been making lately, some of the action scenes specifically, because at least for me, that was always the appeal. It's cool to make two talking heads in a room, but the real magic of Unreal, I think, comes from creating something that could never possibly exist in real life, or it would just be so insanely expensive to pull off yourself. So yeah, if you guys got thumbs up, leave them in the chat. If you know anyone that's been dabbling in Unreal and you think they might be interested, shoot them a link. We're gonna kick it off. Just waiting like one more minute until we get all the way in. And then we'll get rocking. But yeah, we have a full class lined up. I've been working on some new material for Unreal Fundamentals and just trying to really break down all of these complex game dev concepts and just make them really simple and easy to understand so we can just focus on the creative side of Unreal. And that really is the talk that I want to give you today. So we're really going to dive in about why we're choosing Unreal, why it is the best filmmaking tool, in my opinion, when there are so many out there. There's so many other softwares. Maybe use Maya or use Blender or Houdini. There's so many out there. There's no wrong package, but there's a very specific reason why personally I've chosen to go all in on Unreal and ditch all of the other ones. I mean, I still use Blender. There are great tools for the job. But when it comes to rendering and it comes to being creative and actually producing films where it feels like you're in real life on a film set, truly nothing has ever compared to being live in the viewport in real time using Unreal 5. So this is for the filmmakers out there and the VFX artists as well. I started off in a very similar position, just trying to learn all these things off of YouTube and managed to turn that into a VFX career. So that's why I want to get anyone that is pumped up, ready to learn about filmmaking, ready to level up their own skill set. This is for you. So yeah, love it. Seeing some thumbs up. What's up, Compositing Academy? That's Alex Hanneman, good buddy. Check out his channel. Cinema 4D. Yeah, honestly, yeah, that's the thing. There's so many options out there. They're all great. Seeing that polychrome. Sweet. Is there an echo? Okay, let me see if this fixed it. Let me know, Hussein. That's kind of why I wanted to test this out. I just killed the, yeah, anyway, let me know if the echo is a little bit better before we jump in. Okay, well, cool. Real quick, 99FFO, email us at learn@unrealforvfx.com for any questions there. I'll get back to you after tonight. We'll make sure that it's all good. Sounds like there's no echo, so guys, we're ready to jump in. And yeah, look ahead at the year in front of us. Let me see if I can... Sweet, yeah, thanks for the heads up, Hussein. Hussein's been an awesome dude. He's been contributing a lot early on. He was an early supporter of Unreal for VFX, and yeah, really great trainer in his own right, and also gives back to the community. So dude, love that you're here. So yeah, let's jump into it. So yeah, let's look forward at the year ahead of us. So I think a lot of people, myself included, I was in the VFX field for a long time. That was like what I did every single day for my day job for 8 years prior, first starting in the visual effects side, feature film VFX, and migrating over to Unreal within just the last 2 years, primarily for virtual production and working on set. But it's been a weird time, I think, for everybody, right? So a lot of you, if you've been in the industry, unfortunately, there's been a ton of layoffs in just the last couple months. It's been getting worse and worse. That a lot of that was due to the acting strike, the Actors Guild and the Directors Guild as well. So a lot of that was holding things up. Post-production had been put on hold for a very long time, with exception of the very few projects that were still going through the studios. And honestly, right now, today, December 14th, 2023, is probably the slowest it's been specifically today in a very long time. Because even though productions are starting back up right now, none of that work is getting into the post houses. So we're at a very weird time right now, and I think it's a great opportunity for the couple of you out there that actually want to jump and attack and level up your own skills, because right now there is so many people that are on the wayside waiting and applying and going through the process of trying to get jobs right now, even though the work isn't there, instead of leveling up their own skills. And I think personally, I think Unreal is going to be the greatest opportunity for either getting into the film industry for the first time or making a lateral move, going from a different discipline into Unreal and into real time, because animation is going into real time. Virtual production and working on set is gonna get busier than ever. Just hearing from the rumor mill with nothing specific there. There are so many big projects coming through, and the industry needs hungry, excellent artists. And you don't need to start excellent, but you do need to have that drive inside where each project you're making, you're trying to get better. Does that sound like you? Do you actually you're trying to think each one, how do I grow? How do I get to the next, whatever that next milestone is? That's what's odd about these creative roles, is those milestones aren't always clear of what you need to do to get that next job, to get that next opportunity. So that's exactly what I want to dive into today, is what are those next steps? What is the skill stack inside of Unreal that you should be learning specifically right now to learn Unreal for 2024 and to land some of those jobs when the industry finally does pick up again, when it becomes February or March. If we start leveling up our skills and we try to overcompensate in March when the hiring is coming back up, productions are getting rolling again, VFX houses are getting new work, it's going to be too late. And I'm just telling you that right now because we do have this opportunity. It's still 2023. We have a whole year ahead of us. And with a lot of these things with Unreal, there's a finite amount of things to learn. It's not an infinite. I would say with the art side and visual effects, your creative eye it's an infinite skill ceiling. But the actual tools of Unreal and having employable skills with knowing these softwares, it's a finite game. There is an end to it. And I think that's why I've been working so hard on Unreal for VFX, is to figure out what is that. How can we get you that skill set in a matter of weeks and not do what I did, where it literally took me 6 months to feel comfortable, 1 year to feel like hey, I can tackle any problem here. And now that I'm 2 years in, I feel like I finally have a bit of perspective. I've kind of done all the different things between virtual production, being on set with Avatar: The Last Airbender, and then also creating a short film, doing freelance projects, and really creating an at-home visual effects studio myself, crewing up a team and bringing artists together and making a pipeline inside of Unreal to deliver over 100 shots. So I feel like finally I have a little bit of expertise where I can come in, at least help people that are a bit newer, who are still trying to find their footing. Maybe you started to learn Unreal, but you haven't landed that first job yet. Those are all the situations where, how do you get to that next level? How do we level up our skills in a concrete way? And how can we prove that to I want to say the gatekeepers, but just the people hiring for jobs, whether that's the supervisors or people in the virtual art department or on set in virtual production? Why are they going to choose you? And are you actually going to take the steps to separate yourself from the rest of the pack going into 2024? So that's really what I wanted to start out with, is that this is the time to start. If you've been dabbling so far, and you've watched a lot of YouTube tutorials, you've started down the path, I think it's finally time to go all in, and everything today is about why now is the best time to do it. So, cool. Yeah, well, I won't be able to look at all of the comments as I'm going. I'm going to switch over to a PowerPoint, but we'll definitely take a full-on question and answer at the end, full 30 minutes. Anything you got, write your questions down. And if there's anything that you want to remember during this, this live class, then definitely write it down. For real, I take notes all the time. Writing it helps you remember it. And there are a lot of little things to remember. There's no better way. So let's jump in. Let's jump all the way into the presentation, and let's rock and roll. So, okay, and then we got myself in the corner. So I do love starting out. This is what I did the last stream, starting out with. But I want everyone to go back into your mind palace, into your memory bank, and think back about what is your favorite movie, and specifically, what is that movie that made you start like falling in love with movies? Because there's usually one, it might be several. Leave those comments too. I'd love to see what it is. If you have a movie and a sequence within that movie, because I find sometimes the movie itself isn't the best. Like Ready Player One, I didn't love that entire movie and the story, but the car chase in that opening car chase is honestly one of the all-time greatest sequences I've ever seen. When I was a kid, my favorite movie, it was just constantly running in the back of my mind, was the pod racing scene from Star Wars Episode 1. It was the full body experience. You really feel like you're in there, like you're shaking and your seat's rumbling and you're in there with Anakin racing, racing the pod racers, whatever you want to say. But the way they shot that, the way they immersed you in that film, that was something that has never really left since that day when I first watched that in the theater. And I think for some of you are filmmakers, some of you are really going to connect with the movies and the sequences and think like, man, I want to make that. I want to figure out how I can make that, whether that's from start to finish or with a team. Or some of you, and what my original goal was when entering in visual effects, was how do I work on that team? Like there's gotta be so many talented artists that contributed to a sequence like this. And a lot of times I would love to play my part in, if there's a 200 shot sequence, man, can I do 20 of those shots? Like 10% of that sequence could be yours, and you could have that creative control on some of these big movies. And I do, I'm trying to pump it up. Can you make movies by yourself is really the question that it always goes back to. Could you actually start to make action scenes with vehicles and spaceships and lightsabers or whatever it is, whatever your idea is in this case, can you really bring that to the screen, and can you do it by yourself at home on your home computer? Believe it or not, you are way closer than you think, because obviously if you've been watching the channel and consuming all these things, that's exactly what Unreal Engine is for. But a lot of people do have this backwards. I think most people think to get into the film industry, you need to live in LA or live in New York. You need to already grow up with industry connections. You need to have a college degree. You need to have all of these things before you even start. And I just want to give a confirmation to anyone out there who's on the outside looking in, wondering how the heck do I get into the film industry? I was just like you, asking all the same questions. And once I got in, I realized that it wasn't true. And I know this because I started off with these big dreams. That's me, making Star Wars movies in my backyard. And, that was the passion that kept me going through all the questions of, man, I just knew if I didn't get paid for making visual effects, I would still be out there making visual effects. The passion is there, and I bet for a lot of you, the passion's there, right? Like you would literally work for free on some of these big movies. I still feel that from time to time. It's kind of unbelievable. But, I didn't grow up with any of those things. I grew up in a small town, a town of 8,000 in a cornfield in Wisconsin. Didn't have any industry connections, zero related to anyone in the film industry. No one I went to school with had any aunt or uncle or, weird, unrelated, or I guess related connection. I really didn't know a single soul that was in the film industry. And I felt so isolated by myself, sitting in a classroom, trying to think, watching these movies, knowing that this is what I want to do so badly, but really not having a clear understanding of how to get there. And I would bet that a lot of you are the same, because, I think a lot of us are going along this journey. Some of us get there faster than others, but to me, I was self-taught off of videos on YouTube, the classics, the Film Riot, Video Copilot, Corridor Digital early on, and those were the people that really drove me and saw that it's possible. And it doesn't always mean that you have to be working on Hollywood visual effects. Sometimes it's just making the movies that you want to make, those passion projects, those ideas that you've been sitting on and writing in your head and dreaming about all these years. Sometimes it's really that you want to make and bring to life. It's not necessarily trying to get movie credits, but I think there's probably two types of people out there. If you call yourself a visual effects artist, usually you'll fall into one of those two camps. But yeah, in the end, was able to work on some pretty cool movies myself. I grew up trying to work on Star Wars, and in 2019, ended up working on Star Wars Episode 9 with Alex Hanneman, who's my buddy over at compositingacademy.com. Check out his channel. But yeah, I've actually been able, and I feel very grateful and very fortunate to have walked the path and figure out what it takes to get there. And I want to leave a roadmap for the rest of you and what I feel like the rest of us, for anyone out there who is just like me trying to do the same thing. So that's really what this is for, yet again. So whether you're a visual effects artist, maybe you're a filmmaker, you could be a complete beginner, you could be an industry pro trying to migrate over to a different field or migrate over into virtual production, anything like that. It doesn't matter your age, if you're 15 or you're 57, you're not too old and you're not too young. I swear, anyone can learn this stuff. It doesn't matter if you've been to film school, you're still deciding, or you dropped out. Truthfully, I dropped out of film school within the first semester, which doesn't sound great on paper, but it was to, make that leap and actually jump into the film industry. So just so you know, it doesn't matter what state you're at. These are all learnable skills. And if you are willing to, for the next 3 months, or even next 3 weeks, just go all in, just for 3 weeks, I think you would be surprised at the artist you could become and the type of work you could be making by the end of it. And I think a lot of people feel that way when Unreal Engine really clicks in their head and they're able to be creative with this pretty technical tool, at least at first. It can really come off technical. So yeah, if you're a filmmaker and you want to make your own films or make your own previs, this is also for you. I feel like I definitely fall into that camp. I have these ideas of the movies I want to make, but man, if you could make it before you get on set or before you pay for your entire crew to show up for the day, especially with some more complex action sequences, you can previs these out, you can try out the different camera angles and really make your film and truly be creative using Unreal Engine and use it as a filmmaking tool, even if you are a live action filmmaker or director. So if you're a visual effects artist, these are the same exact skills, whether you're at a visual effects studio or you're taking on your own freelance projects, you're taking on your own, if you can get your own work, if you can make enough great work and get your own clients to come in, I feel like that was the point of making that War of Being samurai sword fight, was to see, can you really do this as a small team, as a group of 5 or 6 people? And the answer is yes. You can absolutely use all of these skills to get that next freelance project, whether you're at a studio or whether you're getting that client yourself. So if you want to work on films, if you want to get your own work or just bring your ideas to life, if you're a filmmaker at heart, you are my people. We are kinship. And that's what has been really cool about the Discord group, actually, is we're all you just have everyone's kind of supporting each other because we all want to do the same thing and we want to bring our ideas to life. So if you love cinema and want to improve your art, well, buckle up. And again, we're going to be about 60 minutes for the roughly, it might even be shorter, 45 for the rest of the course, this class rather. So yeah, buckle in, get a notepad out. If you didn't earlier, I swear, write these down because you're going to want to remember the roadmap that I'm going to lay out here, especially if you're ready to, seriously level up and, make that move that you've always wanted to. We'll switch back to, we're going to go back to the screen. And I really thought about this lately before we jump in. I think I was thinking about this earlier today and it really hit me pretty deep while I was just trying to write out, personally, it's the end of 2024, right? Or 2023 right now. We're looking ahead. And I looked at some of my goals from the last year. And to be honest, looking at that list, I didn't get half of what I wanted to get done. I had all these big dreams of what I wanted to do, all these films I wanted to make on top of the YouTube things, and I just didn't hit those goals. And I don't know if you wrote down your goals from last year, but I think it's worth looking back. What were you trying to accomplish at the beginning of last year? And did you hit it? Are you where you want to be, or do you still have more to grow? Do you, if you were a junior artist, did you want to become a mid? If you were mid, did you want to become a senior? And did you actually pull that off, or is it just going to be the same thing next year? That's good. That's really the question is, do you want the same results that you got last year, or do you want to go even further? That's why I'm really excited about kind of hitting you at this moment right before Christmas, right before the beginning of next year, because there's enough time just in this year. If you take your education and your filmmaking and your art seriously and you want to improve, it can happen in 2 weeks. But if you get the right training and you find the right resources, and kind of invest in the right teachers there's many out there for all different skills. But the only way that I have found consistently to save time and propel yourself into the future is finding the right people and just consuming it all. I've done it with so many people along the way, through YouTube, through FXPhD, through all these different methods that I use to learn. Whatever that method is for you, I'm agnostic to the method. All I want is, like, are you ready to commit and jump in and take it seriously? So, seeing too, Warren, that the right resources is the main issue. I'll get into that specifically with Unreal and why, sort of suggestions and why YouTube might not be giving you the exact answers you're looking for, specifically with Unreal. But regardless of the method, I don't want to, I was self-taught primarily through YouTube. So you can definitely do it for free. You can definitely get the shortcuts. But anyway, let's jump back in. I'll jump back into the presentation, and let's get rocking and rolling. So to do all this and to make your own films, you do not need $1 million budgets. I will tell you as a matter of fact, you just need Unreal 5 and a creative eye. And if you have those two things and you're comfortable inside the software, you know it enough where you can be creative instead of getting stuck along the way, that is really all you need to get started and make those big budget ideas. So even looking back at some of the original, I like to constantly remind myself and look at some of the best art that has come out of Unreal to see what is possible. This is one of the first demos, if you remember back when Unreal 5 was announced, but man, it still holds up and shows you the potential inside of Unreal. And whether you want to make, war films and action scenes where you're with tanks and you're trying out all these things, or you want to make a more serious, pared down thing, more of a story-driven movie. This is from The Voice in the Hollow by Miguel Ortega. There's been so many cool new films that are being created with Unreal. We'll be sharing more and more of those as we can. A great one, if you haven't write this down, also is Irradiation by Sava Zivkovic. Right after this video, I would recommend that you watch that because it really shows you what's possible. But even on Love, Death, and Robots, even on these big Netflix shows, they're migrating over to Unreal. And of course, you can start using Unreal Engine to work on set in virtual production. That was sort of my last 2 years was getting into that. And I'm happy to share a couple stories along the way. But that's sort of what we're looking at. And those are the specific outcomes and jobs and roles that you can be looking at. And I think it's worth being laser specific about what you want to achieve, what path you see for yourself, so at least you can start aiming in that direction. And even if you end up going over here and then, hey, instead of on set, I want to work in studio and want to work from home, or maybe studios aren't right, but I want to do my own freelance projects, whatever it is, I think it's worth finding what seems interesting right now and just aim for that one specific thing, that one role, and understand how you can achieve that. Because I swear, as long as you're taking that momentum towards that outcome that you want, you will get there, even if it ends up shifting slightly in the end. So we're gonna do it all through using Unreal 5, using completely free software. And my goal is, how can I translate some of the Hollywood visual effects concepts that I've learned throughout the years and give them to you without knowing how to code, without knowing how to model, and without knowing how to animate. Because there are so many complex things. There's so many roadblocks that could come up when you're learning Unreal. But today, the one thing that I'm gonna try to teach you, and the whole point is to give you a laser-focused roadmap on how you can start making your own films and your own action scenes without knowing how to code or animate or how to make any models yourself. So you don't need to have any you don't need to have any of these skill sets beforehand. I want to find an easy path to ease you in and worry about the filmmaking side of Unreal first before we worry about character animation and groom and coding and all of these things. How can we get to the filmmaking side of Unreal as fast as possible? And that's the focus of today. And that's what I'm going to show you how to do. So let me just take a sip here. So yeah, we're going to go through the 3 secrets to make your own films without the giant Hollywood budgets using Unreal 5. We've got 3 chapters. The first is the VFX rendering problem that is costing you way more time than I'm sure you could imagine. Next up, we have why filmmakers and visual effects studios are migrating over to Unreal 5. I don't think I have the slide here, but the next chapter after that is how you can find free assets, free animations, free characters, free environments to make your own films. These are going to be the cheat codes to get you started. That's going to come halfway through. And by the end, we'll cover why artists fail when they learn Unreal 5, how you can avoid it, and why that might be a great thing for you. Because with a lot of people trying, there's a lot of hype around Unreal, but there's very few who can actually master it. And if you are the one to take the time, and in the end, it's really just a couple weeks, it's less than a month to learn all these things, you could be the first one in line for those jobs because other people just aren't ready, or they don't have the right resources, or whatever it is, to really take their work to the next level where it looks like Hollywood visual effects in the end. So those are the 3 chapters that we're going through. And yeah, just to give you a little background, I talked through a lot of this, so I'm going to skip through it. But again, I was self-taught. I started from not knowing anyone. I started as a complete beginner, learning Photoshop to comp myself into lightsaber, give myself a lightsaber. I learned Photoshop to make this photo, and then I learned After Effects to make my first lightsaber fight, even though this is a little embarrassing, but whatever. This was back when I still had blonde hair. And yeah, that's how old it was. But I did know from the very beginning that I loved watching movies, and I don't know about you, a lot of people know that they have an affinity towards whatever that art style is. Some people love illustration, they love painting, some people love sculpture, and I knew from the very beginning that my art form, the one that I love and want to be the greatest at, truly, is cinema. And that is the thing, that's the one, if I had to focus in, funny enough, cinema is the art form that ends up encompassing all of the other arts with acting and music and editing and all these things. But I knew that I wanted to make movies, and maybe one day I'll get good enough to get my work on the big screen. So starting in high school, I was making movies with my friends. I was going on Reddit and different places to try to find out how do you get these jobs in the industry. Eventually, I did get connected. I worked on some college short film for free. There was a visual effects supervisor that was on the project, Scott Fedor from Montreal. And even at a very young age, I was lying about my age at the time, but I was 16, had managed to, earn the trust of a visual effects supervisor who was getting his own freelance work. And funny enough, I ended up being the first one on his list to call because, I gained that trust, and he wanted me to be a part of his team. And as early as 16, at the time I was working at a restaurant, and I got that email from Scott, and I called up my manager, Jason, and said, hey, literally tomorrow, I am done. I'm getting paid for visual effects. That really was, that was what I was searching for such a long time, is how the heck do you get someone to actually trust you and pay you for doing this? Because I would, again, especially at the time, I would have been doing this for free. But I kept hearing the same thing. I also emailed a lot of studios. I was trying to understand what it is. I emailed a lot of studios. I ended up building out this entire spreadsheet of 100 different visual effects studios all throughout the world, but the ones that spoke English. But it didn't matter if it was in the US or Canada or Europe or Australia or anything like that. But I would either get no response from recruiters or from the job postings, but on the very few times that I did get a response, I did keep hearing the same thing. And it was that they didn't care about my resume, they cared about my reel, my show reel, or my portfolio. And this is the thing that you need to start building. If you don't have a show reel right now, you will not get hired. I'm telling you this as a fact. It doesn't have to be, a reel implies that it's a movie. You can definitely get hired out there with a portfolio, which I would consider more still images like you might see on ArtStation, but you need a collection of work that someone can look at and make a judgment on whether you are right for their team. And when you are starting early on, I cannot stress this enough, it's not about who you know at all. It is only up to your skill and your ability. And you show that off by making a demo reel. So this is the one thing that you need to be building as you're starting down these paths of trying to work for studios and get that next job. That's how you get the promotions as well, is man, look at all the work they've done on that project and look how much they've grown in just the last 2 years. But anyway, that brought me through high school. I got through to college. I kept hearing from everyone around me like, hey, you need a degree. Even after I was like, guys, I just got paid $20 an hour to do rotoscoping for the NFL Network. And I was like, come on, guys, like I could keep doing this, right? But long story short, with my dad, he ended up, we had a really deep talk one night, and he was telling me that his biggest regret in life was not going to college. He had jumped around between different jobs, and he had never really found that true passion, and he never got a career in that thing that he really loved. So he felt really scattered throughout his career. And a lot of that he blamed on, man, if he had that thought of like, if I just had a college degree, this would all be so much easier. And I think back then, for both my parents, that was very true. But I think the world is changing quite a bit now that we're going into 2024. So I did end up going to film school and listen to my parents' advice. I was expecting to be working with actors and cinematographers and other students, but also having all of the film equipment and being able to make some of these amazing projects. But in the end, what I realized was it's a lot of people in a classroom, and people love to talk about making movies, but very few people wanted to make movies. This was my personal experience, so you might have had a different experience if you've gone to film school, but that was the biggest sticking point for me. It was super expensive, and at least at the school that I went to in Wisconsin, you didn't get access to any of the equipment until the third year. And I thought there might be a way around it if I kind of schmoozed and got to know the clubs, but in that situation, there was just no way to even access the equipment. So that was when I just felt like, why am I spending all of this money? It just didn't make any sense for me along the way. But I'm here to tell you, to confirm on the other side of it, you don't need a college degree. It's not going to hurt you, but you don't need one. And that is not a requirement at all in the visual effects industry. And I just want you to hear it from the source myself. You do not need one. If someone tells you that you need one, they are wrong as far as I'm concerned. But you do need a show reel. You need a demo reel. You need something that proves your worth and your ability as an artist. There's no skipping a demo reel as you're trying to get into this. So as I was going, I ended up landing my first job. I ended up dropping out after my first semester, after just like no-lifing it in my dorm room, trying to put my reel together. I guess I can go back to that. That process was head down for 3 months. After 2 weeks of class, I realized that this is not my path. It might be someone else's path, but film school was not going to be my path. And I just got laser focused myself on how can I build the best reel? How can I make a portfolio that proves that my goal was to be a junior compositor at the time. So the goals that I had to hit were, how can I show rotoscoping and green screen keying hair, roto prep, so paint work, and then trying to get more complex shots. Once I master the basics, it's like, how can I push this even further so that my work looks more complex and more photorealistic than everyone else applying next to me. So that was my journey to making a reel, and that allowed me to go from this small town in Wisconsin without any connections and go into work on Alien Covenant. That was the first movie I had worked on, which was the Ridley Scott movie. Alex Hanneman from Comp Academy. This was actually the first show that we met each other. We're both from small towns in Wisconsin. Very similar paths. So it's not just me out there. There are many people that I've met in the industry, many people that regretted going to college because of the expense, not because of the education, but because of how expensive it was for them to do it. And that's what I want to just at least give confirmation is anyone can do it. I came from the States, but people in the film industry at visual effects studios are coming from all walks of life, all these different countries. We end up all meeting up together in Canada a lot of the times, but wherever that studio is, especially with remote work, there are so few restrictions compared to 10 years ago. You don't need to take the traditional route to get there. Now is the best time to work remotely and get these opportunities and do it yourself. So at the end of, so that brings me to working on a couple movies. I ended up working on Star Wars, working on Godzilla vs. Kong. I ended up supervising on some shows on Dungeons & Dragons. And that's when I kind of hit a what now moment. I kind of realized halfway through that I forgot why I was even doing this. I thought that I wanted to make visual effects for Hollywood movies, but I actually wanted to make my movies look as good as the movies I saw from Hollywood. So it was a bit more selfish, to be honest. But that is why I started. It wasn't meant to make art for other people. It was to make art for myself and to make the movies that I wanted to watch. So I just kept reminding myself, and this has been a constant reminder through the years, is that I love watching and making movies. And that's really what for myself, everyone has their own goal. But truly, the thing I want to do before I kick it is get a movie on the big screen and be able to have a feature film shown on a actual movie screen. So I had to figure out a way to make my own film. I had obviously been able to level up my visual effects skills, and that came with working on movies. So I felt like I was learning some of those filmmaking skills along the way. And I'd made some movies prior to entering the industry, but it had been a long time of actually making that film myself. And I think a lot of people have probably been at that spot where you're anxious to make that movie. Maybe you've been writing out a script, or maybe you've just been dreaming up all these ideas in your head. You're making concept art. You're telling these small micro stories, and you're like, man, I just want to turn this into a film somehow. And I think what's very interesting is this phrase. It's really been haunting me the last year. Is you either use it or you lose it. And I think a lot of people think that this pertains to a skill, like you learn a language. In grade school, in second grade, we started learning Spanish, but we were in the middle of Wisconsin where nobody spoke Spanish. So we didn't use any Spanish outside of class, and everybody from that school pretty much ended up losing that skill set. And it could be a skill, it could be your arm. If you don't use it for 5 years, it's gonna atrophy and get really small. But what a lot of people don't realize is the same thing happens to your creative ideas. If you don't use them, they will go away. They don't get better with age. At a certain point, they do not get better. You either use it or you lose it, and that idea starts to atrophy over time. I've felt this, again, kind of looking back at, man, I wish I made more films in the last year. Personally, I've really felt that. And it can happen to your film ideas, it can happen to your creativity, and it can happen to your ambition. If you don't use it, you're gonna lose it. If you've had these thoughts, but you've never acted on them and you've never taken that next step, whether that's building a better portfolio, entering the games industry, making your own film, entering a visual effects studio, maybe you've thought about doing that for 5 or 6 or 7 years, but you've never actually taken the next step to be serious about it and to make a big difference in your personal career. Maybe you're in another career, or you're still in school, but you're not in the same major that your ambitions and your passions are for. And I'm just telling, like, it's just a fact of life. You either use it or you lose it. So that's why I want to help, steer the ship and get us a little bit closer. So we're trying to make films. That's where I'm at in my journey, is trying to figure out what is the best way to make films as an independent person, as someone with not $50,000 budgets. How can I make my own films? So this brings me to Avatar: The Last Airbender, which was the big project that I worked on over at Pixamundo. I was an on-set Unreal operator for episodes 3 through 8 for this show. And this was the first time I was able to really see what it's like to be on a giant movie set, like a scale beyond anything I'd ever seen. I believe it's public knowledge that it's over, it's 10 to 20 million per episode, and I just had never seen that amount of resource and human resource, in the sense of so many crew members. You're having hundreds of people coming in every day, 50 extras, all with custom costumes on the virtual environment. We're building all of these sets, the virtual sets, but also the art department is building the practical sets. It was just something I had never seen before, but ultimately these were the type of movies that I personally always wanted to make. I didn't want to make tiny little movies, at a bus stop or something small. There's a place for those movies and I love watching those, but the ones I wanted to make were those Star Wars pod racing scenes, was the space battles, was the chase scenes, was all of that. And it was just like Avatar: The Last Airbender. But it wasn't until I showed up on set and saw just how expensive it was that I realized that this was not a path that was for me. It just truly wasn't, because of how expensive it was for just a single shoot day. So the real thing is, filmmaking is super expensive, and the more complex you want it to be, the more expensive that film shoot is going to be. And this becomes a bigger and bigger problem the bigger your ideas and ambitions go. But I don't think I'm alone, right? I don't think I'm crazy in the fact that a lot of us probably want to make these really big ideas. You've seen Dune or any of these other great movies, and you don't want to rip off Dune, but you want to make something that has that scale and scope and that energy of a really awesome film. So it's going that traditional Hollywood route. There's so many gatekeepers because it's so expensive, and for me, it was never gonna. I kind of realized it's just not the route if you want to become a filmmaker and a director. Personally, I don't see it that way. But what if we take the indie route? This was my question, and this brought me to making my short film called Stay, which is an original story, but it's based in the world of The Last of Us, but it tells an original story of two characters. And this was me trying to go out, produce a film myself, direct and write a film myself. And this was really like the rubber meets the road. Like, this was trying to see, like, okay, I've had all these thoughts. Okay, man, like how good are you actually when it comes down to it? So this was the first time of coming together, getting a full crew, assembling about 40 people between pre-production, production itself, and then post. We had about 10 visual effects artists and, probably like 12 extras, 3 main actors on this. So the complexity got immense, to be honest. And even though this was a short film, this was 7 or 8 minutes, this ended up taking 10 months of my life, which was pretty insane, being at the end of it, when I'm just like literally every day, that was all I was doing for a very long time. And the problem with that is that I never really had the opportunity to practice in a substantial way. So like, how do you actually get good at filmmaking? Well, do you get better by watching movies? Do you get better by going to the cinema or watching YouTube videos? No, you do not get better by watching YouTube videos. You get better by making new art, by making sequences, by making shots and animations and films, not by watching other people do it. So you actually have to go through and do it yourself. But if you want to go, it just immediately becomes expensive or complex when you're getting 40 people together just to make what seems like a pretty small idea at the very beginning. So if you're not good at making films, and I still feel like I'm not good at making films, I feel like there's so much to learn with the idea of mastering the art of cinema. There is just so much. I'm super excited to keep going down that path. But the big thing you have to do is practice and get reps in, shot after shot after shot after shot. And once you make enough shots, all you have to do is edit those shots together, and there you go, you have a film. Like that, people overcomplicate the idea of filmmaking and being a director. It's just taking a couple shots and editing them together. So at least have some solace in the idea that it's very easy to think that these are very complex things and it's very expensive, and it is if you go through the traditional routes and use the gear that they're using on those big productions. But what you need to do is practice, and that might be by spending a bunch of money and spending $5,000 every time you practice. Or, what if there was a completely free way to make films? And that's what Unreal 5 is for. I did see during college that because no one was making films, no one had a demo reel, no one had a job by the time I had left. I didn't know anyone else at that school in particular that had, because they weren't getting the practice. And I was in the same boat. Filmmaking until that point and until recently was super slow or expensive. So that's when I try to figure out how can we use visual effects and CG to practice filmmaking, because at least it doesn't cost me something every single time. That was the thought I had, was like, okay, I don't want to pay for costumes and pay for actors and locations and camera gear and rentals and all, and especially if you want to get the fancy equipment like dollies and cranes and all these things. Without any of that, how can you practice filmmaking? So that's when I turned to visual effects and CGI. And this brought me to the biggest problem that, until I learned Unreal, had stuck with me. And I thought that maybe filmmaking wasn't for me at that point. After The Last of Us and after seeing how long that short thing took, I was like, man, is this really the right path? And when I started getting into visual effects and CG, I wasn't having my problem solved. And that's Yeah, so we're gonna just at least take a look at some of the traditional visual effects softwares. Maybe some of you use Blender or Maya, right? You've used some of these traditional packages. Again, Cinema 4D, Houdini, they're all the same. If I didn't mention it, all of them kind of go through this framework of path traced rendering, like you're probably familiar with in Cycles if you use Blender, or Arnold if you use Maya. It's this really slow and cumbersome way of rendering and making films. And I'm sure you've seen this screen where you're simply waiting for a result. And sometimes when you're doing still frames, it's not too bad because you'll denoise your renders. But as soon as you're trying to make sequences and you're trying to make films, those denoise renders, quite frankly, are usually not good enough. You usually need to keep rendering those. You can't just render it and then let it denoise after 5 seconds of rendering. It's gonna have these really splotchy, globby looks because it's taking these couple pixels that are pretty inaccurate and trying to guess what's in between them. And between each frame, it's just not gonna do a good job. So rendering always does take a super long time, but I think most people don't realize how long rendering takes. If you wanted to just make a 10-minute movie, and you have a render budget of 1 hour per frame, which is not crazy if you're rendering an HD or a 4K image. If you want that to have no noise, you're gonna take an hour minimum on a pretty, a not complex scene. On a pretty small scene, it's still gonna take up to an hour. And if you start loading in geometry and all these things, it easily takes an hour. So how long do you think that it would take to render a 10-minute movie? I think the answer might surprise you. It would take 600 days on your machine to render out that movie. You can do the math. It sounds like it's ridiculous, and that's rendering it out one time. That's like version 1, you go with version 1 and you throw it in your final film, no retaking any shot. It would take you that long to render out your film. And to me, that is not a sustainable way to make a feature-length thing. It might work when you're doing 15-second, 30-second commercials, and usually that's a lot of the CG work you'll see from small teams and from freelancers, but no one has been able to crack this code of how do you make 10-minute, 20-minute, or 90-minute movies and sequences like you might see on the big screen. When you see a movie like Avatar, it's even crazier. So if you were gonna render Avatar 2 on just one computer, and again, you're not re-rendering it several times like they do, like they'll render out, as they're workshopping lighting, for example, they'll end up rendering that out 10, 20 different times maybe. If you're gonna render Avatar 2 on one computer with how complex that movie is, I looked up some estimates on how long the average frame was, and it would take 2.8 million hours or over 300 years to render that off of one machine. Now, I want to paint this picture for you because I think so many people, myself included, were latching onto this idea that maybe I can make films using Maya and using Blender and all these things and make like a feature-length film. And I'm not saying that it's completely impossible, but I want you to know how unlikely it really is, purely because of the hardware limitations, not because of your creativity or the ingenuity or trying to figure out how to build a team to do it. That's how long it takes. And if you want to get an at-home render farm, a lot of people don't talk about this either. It immediately becomes thousands of dollars just to render out a single shot using the old techniques. I would have to get specific examples, but just trust me on that one. It literally is thousands if you want to start workshopping these. I've done that process and tried to figure it out on my own films and using visual effects when I used to use Maya before Blender. When you're trying to get into 10 to 20 minute films, it's thousands and thousands of dollars. So traditional visual effects is super, super slow, and it all comes down to rendering. So this is how I see the previous way, the old school way of doing visual effects is at each step of the process, you keep hitting these roadblocks. When you have animation, you're not actually previewing your final film until you render it out. So after animation is done, you have to render that out and see the result. After you do your effect simulations, you have to render that out and see the result. As soon as you go into lighting, the more creative part of CG filmmaking, which is very fun, this can be the most time-consuming part because you're constantly re-rendering and just waiting around to see the result instead of actually creating better images. And this is true all the way down to compositing, which is what I did on feature films. It's a very, very slow process, and you don't even realize how slow it is until you've found a new method. So these are the rendering roadblocks. This is what it looks like. And what do you think happens to your flow state when you're stopping every 3 to 5 minutes to wait for your render? Like, what do you think happens to your creativity as you're moving through your renders? Like, do you think you're getting better and more creative by stopping as soon as you kind of start getting in flow and start getting your creative juices going? Or do you think stopping halfway through, is a roadblock in and of itself? That to me was the biggest thing when I didn't have the resources of a render farm like I did at a visual effects studio. Man, it just felt like I hit a wall every time I had to get to the rendering stage. And like I said, at each review stage after modeling, effects, lighting, and comp, you have to go through the rendering stage. So enough of that, enough of looking at pixelated, garbly renders. Rendering just seems to constantly get in the way. And I'm just here to tell you that the way that you can make 90-minute, 20-minute, 10-minute films is not going to be the way that visual effects studios do, even though they seem to be the only ones pulling it off. It's because they have all this money and all these resources, and the client is paying for that render farm. That's why they can afford it. How are we supposed to make films? And if you've been watching the channel and you've been watching everything, obviously with Unreal 5, it seems like this is become easier than ever. And you're able to make multiple shots in the time it would take to create one shot the old way, because you are just zipping through this process and there is no render times at all. That is what real-time rendering is giving you. And I want to be clear on that, because I've been at this crossroads of, man, I know Blender. I spent a bunch of time learning Maya. I've started with Cinema 4D. There's just all these packages out there. Everyone says great things about Houdini. Man, like, what should I learn? There's so many question marks. Everyone pulls you in all these directions. But you will always come back to these rendering roadblocks until you find a way to do real-time rendering for your projects. And that is why I chose Unreal 5, and that's why I'm going to stick to Unreal, and why to me it's the most exciting revelation in filmmaking, because there's no more waiting around, which was it was part of the visual effects process. It's just been completely eliminated once you start working inside of Unreal 5. And this is the reason why filmmakers and visual effects studios are switching over. It's why Sony ImageWorks was using Unreal on their short film in Love, Death, and Robots. It's being used on these big films. ILM has used it inside of Star Wars. They used it for a sequence in Rogue One, and it's just constantly being used more and more, because visual effects studios as well are realizing, wow, this saves us a lot of money. I wonder if we should start investing in this. And that is why in the last year to 2 years, we're finally seeing the big companies start to migrate over to Unreal, because they're realizing the same thing, that this saves so much time and so much money through the rendering hours, and there's really no other way to do it. So the solution is real-time rendering, and that is why Unreal is just so damn powerful, and it's why that's the vehicle that we're going to be using, because we're able to create at the speed of thought. It's actual creativity, because there's nothing getting in your way. You're full flow state, you're in the groove, and you can just keep making shots, making films, and making movies without leaving sequencer. And it's a really fun process once we get into it. Don't think that we're just going to talk about theory, though, because I've been building this up. I wanted to get very, very clear about why real-time rendering is so important. And leave a thumbs up if you could, if that made sense, if that's clicking with you, if that at least gives you some clarity about why other people are switching over to Unreal and why it might be the best tool, depending on the type of films that you want to make. The big epiphany and the problem that we had and we noticed on War of Being, which was the samurai sword fight. I have a video of that on my channel. Feel free to check that out. But we made this 10-minute action. To me, it was an action scene, but it was a music video for Tesseract's song War of Being. It was this big epic sci-fi world and story with original characters. We were looking at the roadmap. And we realized, we tried to path trace inside of Unreal, but path tracing is not real time. And when we got to compositing our shot and adding in the final polish, as soon as we had to start making 100 shots instead of like 2 or 3 shots, we realized that compositing is not even close to real time. So like in this case, we only had one roadblock because we were using Unreal for the first 4 steps. But as we got to the last stage of compositing, that 20% of the effort ended up taking 80% of the time. And as soon as I realized that, I was like, wait, if I keep spending all this time in the composite, we're not going to finish this film in time. So I had to be creative and figure out a way to figure out how to make each stage of the visual effects pipeline completely real time. And that is what I'm going to share today, is that roadmap on how we can do that and how we can start making our own films with our own characters and free environments and free animations, and do it yourself and give you everything that you need to start right after this live class. So here we go. So this was what I wanted to show you about how slow compositing is. So this is inside of Nuke, and this is how long it takes. If you look at the very bottom at the frame counter here, it takes about 3 seconds to cache one frame, 1/24th of a frame. So basically, to play back 1 second of your render inside of Nuke here, it can take 3 to 4 minutes to just preview 1 second of your 3D renders. So that's why this has also been a big roadblock, and why I'm trying to figure out, man, there's parts of this is working and parts of it aren't. So now I want to show you what are all those revelations that we learned, because your process and your pipeline is either all real time or it is not real time. And it has to be real time. That's kind of the revelation that I got by the end of making that short film and spending 3 to 4 months making that with a small team, was every second you're not in a real-time stage, you are wasting time. And it bears repeating, because we have to find the most efficient way so that we can start making hundreds of shots and not making 1 or 2 shots. And that is where the distinction comes into place. So if you guys are ready, let's jump into it, right? So this is gonna be, this next chapter here, we're gonna walk through the best resources, every best resource that I found for free characters, free animations, everything you need to get started without knowing how to code, how to model, how to animate yourself. You don't need to know any of that to get started, and you can make your first film inside of Unreal without knowing any of these things. And yeah, let's jump into it. So the best resources for free environments are going to be on the Epic Games launcher. So if you haven't seen it, there is a marketplace tab on the Epic Games launcher. And if you take this, if you go through here, you can find so many high quality environments. Now, I'm sure a few of you out there have been using Unreal for a long time, but for the people that are just starting out, it bears repeating yet again, because there are probably 10 to 15 high quality AAA level environments that are completely free and that Epic Games has fully funded and then released for free, that have had incredible artists that they have at Epic Games, and when they'll actually hire out other studios to make work for them, like in the Matrix demo, they had a couple studios all collaborating to make this. But by the end of it, they've created some of these awesome films, they've created all of these great resources, and now you're able to download them as your own film sets and your own locations, so you can start making your own films. There's also one other spot that I want to touch on here, which is there is a free for the month tab. If you don't know about this, it changes every month. This is really good. Usually there's 1 or 2 free assets here that you can get, and you'll see that these are normally assets that you have to pay for. Just let's get back to there. All right. Yes, if you go to the free tab and then free for the month, you'll find usually they have about 5 or 6 free assets that are normally paid. Some of these cost about $100, and you can have it completely free. And I really like using this free page to just inspire a quick short film. If you can just download this for free, throw in 2 characters into this scene and just start making a film, to me, that is the absolute best way to practice, the best way to get some reps in. And you can do that in 2 to 3 days. Once I show you the characters, you'll see just how easy it is to start throwing these in and start making your own films. So that is fully created environments. There's also free 3D assets. So again, I'm sure some of you know, but Quixel Megascans is this gigantic library of over, I don't even know the number, I think about 15,000 plus assets and models and textures that are all based on photogrammetry and things that exist in real life. And you can simply take these and click and drag them into your scene to start set dressing your environments. And because they're taken from real locations and real photogrammetry scans where they're going out into nature and finding these real things, they will immediately add a lot of production value and a lot of quality to your environments and your scenes. So that's environments, but you cannot make a film without characters. And this is a huge trap that if you've been paying attention to a lot of the work coming out of Unreal, a lot of freelancers or people making their first projects, I call this the Unreal curse. It's the people that are making films without characters. This is fine if you want to build an environment reel. It's great actually, but I think a lot of people get confused. They think they're getting into Unreal for filmmaking, but they actually are just getting into Unreal for making environments. And they might not even realize that they're not, actually taking the right steps, because it can be really fun. You have Quixel, you have all these resources, but if you don't have characters, you don't have a film. So this is why I've been trying to make all the videos that I have to try to demystify how you can get characters. That being said, if you're trying to make your own characters from scratch, like we did on War of Being, where we built these from nothing, I hired a character modeler, Sterling Slack, who did an awesome job on these, and we were able to make custom characters, go through motion capture, and remap that animation onto those characters. That's one route, and that's the best way if you're doing client work. A lot of times you have to do that. But if you just want to make your first film in Unreal, or you want to get practice and you want to get those reps in, there is some great 3D assets that you can download and characters that you can download without knowing how to model, how to texture, how to rig, or how to animate. So you can just hop into the fun creative side yet again and not get bogged down by all these technical parts of the pipeline. We can just surpass those or bypass those for now. And you can always go back and learn those and get a deeper knowledge and use those to make better films, but we don't need them to start, all right? So the best resources for free characters are going to be, again, on the Epic Games Marketplace. And all you need to do is in the search bar, type in Paragon. So there's going to be about 40 high quality AAA assets, humans, robots, monsters, orcs, all these different things that you can use. And literally all of these are completely free. They were released by Epic Games in one of their projects, which was this game called Paragon. And you can use any of these in your own projects. And a lot of them come with 5 or 6 different skins. So you could just download one asset and have those two fight each other or whatever you want to do. And they also come with their own animations. So this, to me, I could give you 2 or 3 other places to look for characters, but if you haven't already downloaded these Paragon characters, put them in your own films, created your own films with these characters, then this is where you should look at next, because this is a treasure trove of, if you think of how expensive it would be to make, all these characters, I think it's safe to say any character is going to cost between $3,000 and $5,000 if you're going to pay someone full time to make them. That's a little bit of help out there for anyone trying to use Unreal for freelancing. I think that's a pretty safe estimate on a low budget. You have 40 characters. And that's my brain. That's about $200,000 worth of assets right here that you can download and use for your own films. So again, these aren't going to be the ones you use 4 years from now, but these can be the ones that will help you make your first film. These will be your first characters, your first actors, if you will, and they come with their own animations. So it's a great resource for free animations. But there's one other place that you should search for. And again, if you've been in the CG and VFX world, you might know this, but I'm going to show you a cool way to apply it to characters in Unreal. And that's, the best resource is going to be mixamo.com. It's easy. It's a free thing. You just sign up for an Adobe account, and they do have some characters here. I use this Vanguard character to create one of our project files inside of Unreal for VFX and our Unreal Fundamentals class, which you're seeing right here. And this is so cool because they give you animation packs. So if you can see here, the Sword and Shield pack has about 49 animations that all string together, and you can download those animations add your characters into Sequencer, and then you can immediately start applying any of those animations from any of the different packs just by importing them and then clicking and dragging those inside of your scene. It really is that easy, and that's why Mixamo is such a powerful resource. And this entire shot from this demo project was made only through using Mixamo animations and simply stringing them together. So Mixamo is a great resource. But one disconnect a lot of people have, they might know about Mixamo, they might know about Paragon, but one problem that exists is animations have to be tied to a rig. So a rig is just a skeleton. It's just a skeleton with bones that you use like a puppeteer would to move your character around. It has all the joints, and it's just a list of joints in order. So animations are tied to that specific rig. And if you have one character that has like 4 joints in their spine and you have another character that has 8, there's not really a great way, there's not a direct way to take animations from these 2 different rigs and apply them together. But we can use retargeting, which I'm showing here. You can use retargeting to take animations from our Mixamo characters and reapply those to your Paragon characters. This is the same exact method and idea here that we used on War of Being to take our motion capture animations and retarget them to our custom characters. And it's the same exact workflow, and it's a free tool that you can use inside of Unreal. We never left Unreal when we tried to upgrade our motion capture. We tried to do it all inside of Unreal, first by retargeting and then by cleaning up that animation after the fact. But I think a lot of you might be surprised how just these few combinations of transferring animations from one character to another can unlock this entire world of filmmaking and creativity and animation without you ever having to like go in and animate any shoulders or arms or anything yourself. That can be a very time-consuming process, a very fun process for you animators out there. If there's any animators out there too, leave a thumbs up right now. I would love to know. We're trying to get the biggest lack in the Unreal space right now is definitely animators who really know Unreal. So let me know. But yeah, does that sound cool? Like you can use retargeting to take your animations and apply them to any character. And then it doesn't matter what the source is. So we have Mixamo, we have Rococo, we also have AI video motion capture, which is becoming really popular. And I can't wait to make some future videos on how you would apply that. But this is what you do. You take these original animations from different resources, you use the IK retargeting toolset inside of Unreal, and you use that to basically transform these animations so you can apply them to any character. And that's whether it's a Paragon character or it's a original character like our samurais, or you can keep it even simpler. I'm trying to show here, we have our Mixamo character, our Mixamo animations up here that you can apply to these Paragon characters. But if you use a Mixamo character, that character already has the rig and the skeleton that those animations have. So that's when it becomes drag and drop and becomes really easy and fun. So if you want to avoid any complexity, use Mixamo characters. If you want to get higher quality characters, that's when you want to start dipping into Paragon and start retargeting some of those animations between the 2 rigs so that you have a lot more flexibility and you can create your own fight choreography all inside of Unreal. And what's really cool is when you put all of these together, you download an environment, you download your characters, you put them in the same scene, you start retargeting Mixamo animations onto those characters, and then all of a sudden you have your film sets and you have characters that you can start crafting your own action scenes. So you can take these free environments and these free characters, have them fight each other using free animations, and by the end of it, you have your own movies. I'm trying to show you the top-down view, but this really is the entire sequence. This is the top-down animation part of creating in Unreal. And for anyone looking to create their first film, this is the exact workflow that I would recommend. I wish I knew this when I first started because I made so many mistakes trying to find the right places, and characters can be very confusing when you're first starting. But if you use the characters in the way I've outlined here, you won't have any confusion as you're going, and it'll be just focused on creating those animations and that fight choreography instead of getting bogged down by all the technical ideas. So let me ask you, if you had free characters and you had a free environment, your free film set, and you had free animations, do you think that you could start creating a single shot? That is my question. Do you actually think, hey, I could import characters and I could download an environment and I could place them in, I could place a camera, and you could start creating a single shot. That's what we do here. And actually, if you go on my YouTube channel, it's one of the first videos. It's the animation cheat code. I walk through this process. So if you have any doubts, I know you can do it if you're here and you have enough motivation to show up and go to live events and classes when you don't have to after work. You're taking the time out of your day, which is super awesome. I know you have enough ability, and you can figure out all the steps to at least get to this level. And if you can create one shot, that also means that you can create several shots, and you can create 4 or 5 or 6 shots and start stringing them together to start creating your own films and start creating your own action scenes. And if you can do that, guess what? You can start building your first demo reel through this process. That's the thing. It doesn't have to be any more complicated than this. You want to let people know exactly what it is you're contributing. You don't want to say that you built the environment if you didn't build the environment. But if you want to apply for previs or working on set in virtual production, you can start using these to start getting your foot in the door, or show like, hey, we have an Unreal, an Unreal part of the company opening up. Hey, I've made this short film already. Let me at least try out and get to know the guys and gals in that department. That's a great way to make a lateral move when you're already in a visual effects studio. Once you have that first demo reel and you have your first portfolio piece, and that is really what you need to start creating that opportunity for yourself so you can land your first job. Does that sound cool? Does that at least give you a little bit more clarity on the exact steps that you need to start taking? I just want to give you a direct path and offer something for someone out there who isn't so familiar with Unreal, who has a lot of questions, who's coming from these other softwares, or maybe you started using Unreal. So you know some of these things, but you just need a little extra help to start tying all the concepts together. This is how you can do it. And once you can start making films, you'll understand how the engine, the game engine side of Unreal works, so that you can get better with your technical skills and you can get deeper into Unreal. You can start leveling up, going into metahumans and motion capture and all these things. But you don't want to get into any of that and get into the complicated technical side of blueprints and metahumans and all these things if you haven't done the basics, if you haven't created your first movie using these characters. So I hope that gives a very clear path on how to go from there. And this is the same technique that I used for a lot of the shots that you've seen on the YouTube channel. These are Mixamo animations. I retargeted them to another character. These guys, guys and gals actually, I believe it was it was a duo who was the creative voice behind that film. But yeah, we're going to be using these same techniques in every single shot. These are the critical skills that you need to know, and that's really where to find the right resources and how to retarget so you can start crafting your own film. All right, does that sound cool? And this is the same exact skill set. If you can start doing this, you are already on the right path to start working in virtual production. You need to get a lot more depth of understanding to start getting that trust to be controlling a volume because, again, it becomes so expensive. You become very expensive. Any downtime when things aren't working becomes very expensive. So that's a lot of responsibility on your shoulders there. But this is essentially how you are going to start down this path. It starts here. It starts with making a film so that you understand how the engine works together. Cool? And what's even better is that now we're able to just go in. We don't need to worry about animation. We don't need to worry about modeling. I've included free effects in the sample project. If you go to unrealforvfx.com/crash course, I'll give you a free project file, which is that lightsaber battle you just saw. It has 6 free Niagara effects assets. You don't even need to make your own Niagara effects. And you can just start lighting, and we'll get to compositing by the end, but you can just jump into the creative side. So cool. Does everyone feel like they could make their own films inside of Unreal, or at least they know what that next step is, so that they can at least start opening up some of these, you can start downloading those environments and start making your own films. Is that cool? Well, yeah, let's jump into our last topic, which is why artists fail when they're learning Unreal 5 and how you can avoid it, how you can stand out from everyone else that tiptoes in, who's going halfway, but isn't committing to the idea of real-time rendering and committing to these workflows, because again, it is either all real-time or it's not real time. I truly believe that. That's the biggest mindset shift I've had over the last year, is that it's either all real time or it's not real time. So we have to figure out, how do we do all of these visual effects processes inside of a game engine? That's going to be the tricky part here, and that's what we're going to tackle in this part of the lesson. So let me just take a sip of water real quick. And guess what? Same thing. Don't need to know how to model, how to texture, how to rig, or how to animate for these next steps. I think you can still learn Unreal without going through these first. Again, you'll eventually get there, but once you know how it works, it becomes very easy to plug those into the system. But this is how we can start learning Unreal and avoid all of the roadblocks that everyone else has. And just to show that anyone can really do this, I want to share the story from Mark Jason, who is a music producer and also is a filmmaker in his own right. He makes a lot of his own music videos. He's someone that joined Unreal Fundamentals. And again, he said he never thought he'd be able to understand anything in Unreal. And by the end of it, he could make an environment from scratch. So even for a lot of the people out there that are, maybe you like, well, I already know Maya and I know Blender, so, that's probably good enough. You don't need to have any of these skills. A lot of people have started down this path without knowing anything about game dev or without knowing anything about visual effects, and have still been able to make amazing films. So that was really cool of him to share. He's been sharing his work over on his Instagram, so check out Jason Official. I think I plugged that there. But this is the caveat with Unreal, is because we're eliminating render times entirely. And when I mean that, what I really mean is that renders take a minute now instead of hours and hours and hours. It literally will take you a minute to render out an entire shot. And I will show you that. We'll get to that later. But it's totally true when you're using the right render presets. So we need to replace our render times with education. Education is the problem with Unreal. A lot of people start and they stop because the resources are really scattered. There's a lot of different people saying that this is the one way that you need to make, this is the one way to make art and how to make films in Unreal. But a lot of those people haven't actually finished their own film and they haven't worked on set. So that's why at least I want to give you a bit more clarity, because once you learn everything inside of Unreal and you understand how the whole system works together, you only learn it once. It is a finite problem to solve versus VFX and old school visual effects rendering, which will take infinitely long if you let it. So we can cut through all of that render time in the however long it takes you to learn Unreal in the first place. So I gotta ask, so if all Unreal did was eliminate renders, would it be worth learning? For anyone out there that hasn't started down this path, do you think if you could eliminate renders from everything that you do in the future, do you think it'd be worth learning Unreal? That's what I think it'd be worth it. If all it did was get rid of any camera gear, it made you be able to previs and make your own films without rentals and without locations and without paying for crew and expensive film gear. I mean, it's crazy how much goes just into the camera, just into the lighting package, just into costumes, just into audio when you're doing this on set. And if it eliminated that and let you make the films you want to make, do you think it'd be worth learning Unreal? I hope the answer is yes, and you can start to see why myself and so many other people are fully committing and going all in on Unreal. Because if it let you practice filmmaking for real, for free, for real, in my opinion, that's the magic. That's how we can practice and get better at our craft and our art without having a bill to pay at the end of each practice session. That's what we get with Unreal. But like I said, the bottleneck is learning, but we're only gonna have to learn it once. So this is the typical learning curve. This is your average learning curve. We have learning on one axis, we have time on the other axis. This is a very average learning curve. It's a linear path. Very few skills are like this, but some are. Some things are repeatable and you just learn it. And actually at the end it would go flat because there's nothing else to learn. But this is the ideal learning curve where you learn most of everything at the very beginning, and you'll end up continuing to get better incrementally at the back end of that. But most of the complex learning happens up front. You get that out of the way, and now you have that knowledge. Just like Neo in the Matrix, as he's leveling up and learning Kung Fu, it's like, oh, you gotta learn it. You gotta go through the struggle of him like learning that in like half a second or whatever that scene is. And then after, you know it. And now you have to keep applying it and getting better and practicing and training. That's how you get better, and that's how you get those jobs in the studios. It's not by learning the software, it's by getting better at the art. But we have to start here. We have to start learning Unreal from this side. But this is what the average Unreal 5 learning curve is. We start learning. You probably have found one really good tutorial that got you started, that taught you a lot about Unreal. But really quickly, you probably found out that it just didn't have all the answers. And as soon as you stop following their tutorial step by step, you're kind of left questioning like, wait, how do I actually use Unreal though? Because you've just been following step by step with a tutorial instead of learning how to make films yourself. Does that sound like maybe you've been through that same exact thing? I definitely felt that way at the very beginning when I was learning Unreal 4. I felt very, it was very confusing. I made a lot of progress right at the beginning, but then I got completely stuck. I didn't know how to render out my shots, and I didn't know how to take the game engine and turn it into a filmmaking tool. And that is why there is this huge dip. It's because in the middle, like as soon as you start to learn, you realize that you don't even know that much because you can't make your own art and you can't bring your own ideas to life using that software, which means you don't actually know it. So this is the valley of despair. This is where most people drop off. A lot of people get excited. They build one environment, they build one thing, they follow the one tutorial, but then they get stuck on their next project and then they give it up and they say, well, I already know Maya. I'm already comfortable in these other softwares. Let me just go back to those. But again, we know what the answer is when we go down that path of reverting to the old school way. So the real way we have to progress is figuring out Unreal 5. And I think the real reason why a lot of people struggle with this is they start trying to apply the visual effects concepts that you might know if you've been using some of the other VFX softwares, you've used After Effects even, like you might be trying to apply these other methodologies and these other softwares to Unreal Engine, but the reality is all of the problem and all the things that you're avoiding are the game dev side of Unreal. I think it's important to know that Unreal is a game engine first. We have to learn the game engine side of Unreal. If you avoid the game engine side, you are going to get stuck. You are going to find yourself at the bottom, at the valley of despair, and you're gonna have to kind of relearn from scratch and figure out all of the game dev things after the fact. And then it ends up taking twice or 3 times as long for you to get to the point where you're actually making the films that you want to make. So the easy learning curve when applied to learning Unreal is to just focus on game dev at the very beginning. You don't need to become a game developer. You don't need to know how to code. You don't need to learn any of that. You don't need to know C++. Don't worry about that. But you want to focus on the game dev side of Unreal first so that you don't have any questions when you start using Unreal for visual effects and for filmmaking. So this is the thing. You want to try to make a basic game, or at least understand the mechanics of how games work in the first place before you start applying the visual effects techniques and filmmaking techniques that you already know. Because otherwise, it's just gonna take 2 to 3 times as long to learn and go through this process. So that is the big reason why most people fail. They don't realize that you are learning a game engine first, and we're learning that game engine to create films. Unreal Engine is tying both of these concepts together, game dev and Unreal, and you're taking the best of both of these, where game dev, you have real-time rendering, you have things that are lightning fast and at the cutting edge of technology, and you have visual effects in the creative side of filmmaking with, creating special effects and explosions and even lighting. I kind of consider under visual effects. It's more the creative side of making films, and we're bringing those two together. Now, like I said, I am self-taught on YouTube, so don't take this how I mean this. There is a problem with learning from YouTube, and I found myself reading through documentation to have a lot of the breakthroughs in my Unreal game dev journey. And it's because a lot of Unreal on YouTube focuses on the brand new features of Unreal. Hey, look, you can rig a character in Unreal. Oh, look, you can path trace in Unreal. And they just show you one or two of these new features, which are cool, don't get me wrong, but they're not focusing on the workflow. And I've been thinking about this. You need to know how the work flows together and how that work flows into sequencer and into movie render queue so you can make your final renders. And if you're brand new to Unreal, those are just the way you make a timeline and you animate inside of sequencer and you render all of your images out of movie render queue. So don't focus on the individual features, at least not at first. There's lots of flashy things. Again, there's so many things to get distracted with inside of Unreal. But there is a core skill set you need to learn first, which is how all of the systems flow into sequencer and into movie render queue. And another big thing that I learned on set of Avatar: The Last Airbender, to kind of walk you back and kind of show you where I was at when I first was getting that job with Pixamundo and working over there with the stage crew and the awesome people over there. Honestly, so 2 months prior to that shoot, I had gotten a job offer. I had known Unreal, but I wasn't confident. Like I knew how the basics worked. I had gone through all the same tutorials that you've probably seen out there if you've been doing this for a while, but I didn't have that unwavering confidence that's exactly what you need when you're on set, because you need to be able to troubleshoot anything inside the scene in a second, in a moment's notice. You're the person who's got to do it yourself. So you have to have just a pure vision. You have to know Unreal inside and out to really become a great Unreal operator, in my opinion. And what was so cool and why I'm super grateful for that opportunity and the awesome team at Pixamundo there is because I actually got to learn from the experts themselves. I got to learn from people like Sept Sontag, who had been using Unreal Engine at a visual effects studio prior to that and used it for post-rendering. I got to work alongside all of these people who had been using Unreal Engine creatively and had gone through a lot of the muck and the confusing parts, and there are lots of it when you're learning Unreal. Because a lot of times you'll have one sticking point that can really stop everything from continuing if you don't understand how that work flows into sequencer. So when you're learning game dev and visual effects together, personally, those 2 months of me learning by myself, I probably learned more in the first week of being there alongside everyone, shoulder to shoulder, looking at Unreal with them, being able to ask questions and understand how it all works together. And that really sped up the process for me. And that is, again, why I hope to do some of that with the videos and the course and everything like that. But briefly, let's just walk through the game dev side, the game dev skills that you should focus on if you're just getting started. So the first is game mode. When you press the play button, what happens? If you don't know if you don't know what the mechanics are that are happening, then you do not know Unreal. I'm just telling you this as a fact because this was a huge, huge sticking point on why Unreal works the way it does. You have to understand game mode. The other thing is the material graph, because you're using a lot of old school visual effects techniques. A lot of the basics are there, but truly you're using a game dev tool set and these game dev I think the big point here is that material graph is full of game dev concepts and game dev math, and you need to understand how that works. It's not complex math, it's addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Everyone knows this stuff. It's really easy once someone kind of walks you through it, but it is something that you need to use every single time. And you want to be able to make materials entirely in Unreal. And that's not as straightforward as you might imagine when compared to something like Blender, which has a pretty great tool set. All the tools are there, but they're labeled in different ways, and you just have to learn the Unreal way of making materials. The next thing is Niagara, which is your effects and your particle system. This is definitely a system designed by game designers for game designers, but I'll be making some stuff to really demystify all of that and make it really easy to understand. And then lastly, blueprints. And I would put this last out of these three. You don't need to know blueprints to get started, but as soon as you start downloading anything from the Unreal Marketplace, other people do use blueprints all the time. So if you want to download other people's assets, then you have to know how blueprints work inside of Unreal. On the visual effects side, we have animation, which plugs into sequencer. So there we can add character animation in our animation clips. We need to understand how lighting works, and we need to use exponential height fog and our skylight and a directional light all together to create a dynamic sky system. I believe you also need a sky atmosphere. Those are the 4 things that you need. If you're looking to just create a dynamic sky system yourself, just type in environment light mixer, write that down if you don't know about that already. That is a toolbar that they've created in Unreal, so you can just click 4 buttons and it'll automatically create a really great sun and sky system for you. And then lastly, you need to know how to render out your images through Movie Render Queue, and you need to know how to composite your shots, add that last layer of polish and photographic quality to your renders so that they look photorealistic. Because I think a lot of people in this, recently, when you're looking at a lot of the projects coming out of Unreal, a lot of people are aiming for photorealism. So I call this the skill bridge. And I think it's really important to know because you need to know all of these skills to cross the road. If you go partway through here and you only know a couple of these skills and you don't know how they flow together, you really don't know how to make films. And that can be the really frustrating part of Unreal, is you could know 6 out of the 8, or you know most of the process, but if you don't have a confidence and a mastery in each one of these little sections, or you don't have the ability to get the resources that exist for them, you can be really stuck, and you need to have that, like the real-time highway, whatever that was. Just like in that example, in order to cross, you need to know every part of the system. So this is our goal. Screenshot this if you want it, or write these down if you have the time. We have our game dev side on the left, we have our visual effects side on the left, and these 2 bridge together and allow us to make films. So this is the roadmap. These are the skills that you need to start learning today to level up, to go to level 2. Level 1 was creating your own action scenes. Level 2 is getting that depth of knowledge. And once you have that depth of knowledge, that's when you can start working on set and start applying for studios, because you actually understand all of the intricacies of the game engine. You can troubleshoot any problem as it comes up. You can create high quality renders every time. And that is the standard that you need to be aiming for if you want to start getting paid at a visual effects studio to use Unreal Engine as an environment artist or a previs or cinematic artist. Cool. We are missing one critical skill, and that is filmmaking. That is the prerequisite for filmmaking. Basically, all those skills we're bypassing in that first chapter. But if you want to be able to make any film, any idea that comes to your mind, and make it in that custom way with your own designs and your own characters and your own environments, that is what you need to know before you start placing your camera. So then after that, you still need to know the basics of camera movements and composition and lenses and how all of these things work together in order to make your final films. So that's been my focus within Unreal Fundamentals, and we're adding a bunch of new chapters. This was some new work that just came out. We made this all inside of Unreal using these workflows, using a full real-time workflow. It took exactly 1 minute 34 seconds to render out everything that you're seeing right here, because we're using all of the latest and greatest systems inside of Unreal, and we're taking advantage of the real-time aspects of Unreal. We're not shying away from the game dev real-time side of it. We are embracing it to level up our skills. And right now, so I just went ahead and I've actually just done the entire recording for this section of Unreal Fundamentals. This is going to be a huge update. So anyone here that's in Unreal Fundamentals, this will be my Christmas gift for you. It will be coming in January of 2024. But it is coming nonetheless. It's just a matter of editing and getting everything together. But I'm super excited because we're basically going to be taking this exact roadmap and applying it so that we can just get to the filmmaking side and then have a fun time creating cameras and animations and vehicle animations to tell our own stories inside of Unreal. A couple things here. All right, so I've been talking for a very, very long time. Let's jump back to our stream. All right, so to everyone out there, if it's cool, I'd like to take just a couple minutes and start to break down some of the new stuff that I've been adding to Unreal Fundamentals. Is that cool? Just so that I can kind of show you the latest and greatest. We've been updating a ton. We've been putting out all of the free videos so far, which I hope has helped you along the way. But the big problem was you really do need one set of skills and one set of instructions to learn each one of these different disciplines inside of Unreal. And the biggest struggle for me was getting different information from different teachers, different methods, different ideas of how these things should work, instead of one holistic approach to making your own films. Because ultimately, if you can't render things out, if you can't get things going all the way through sequencer and rendered out through movie render queue and polished with nice compositing templates, then you're gonna get stuck along the way naturally. So if that's cool, I just want to share a couple things that we've been adding because I think they've been pretty cool. I think you might get a kick out of them, and at least you can see what exactly us crazy filmmakers are doing. We're 250 people strong and growing, which is super amazing of everyone that's been supporting so far. But if that's cool, I really want to show you exactly what type of skill set you'll get by the end of this course and all of the bonuses and templates that I've tried to make to just make this entire filmmaking process as easy as possible. And just to kind of wind back, it bears repeating, it did take me 2 entire years after already being at visual effects studios. After sort of being a CG generalist, I made my own CG for my visual effects, for my compositing reel. So I already knew CG, and still, when I did not have, when it was just me in the documentation, it took 6 months truly to get anywhere close to comfortable, and it probably took a year before I would actually really say that I know exactly what's happening at every step of the pipeline. So instead of going through that yourself, if you value your time and want that shortcut, this is exactly what we're covering inside of Unreal Fundamentals. If I cut back, I think the 2 coolest bonuses, so I want to at least show you some of the cool bonus templates that we've been creating. So the first one is our lightning fast rendering templates. So instead of going through with the old school way of rendering, you can see the difference between working live in a viewport and working slowly inside of Maya. So I wanted to package up all of the render presets I made when going through War of Being to create really simple, easy to use templates. There's 8 in total because you don't need, there's no point in having 50 of them. There's a lot of benefit of having 8 that are extremely focused and are just there to give you the fastest renders possible while still having the best quality results. And that's exactly what I put all together inside of the lightning fast render presets. We have EXRs, so we're getting all the way into the visual effects pipeline. If you're in a visual effects studio, if you're curious, the template is for Nuke and it's for After Effects. And in our Nuke template, we'll show you how to render out custom AOVs, how to do the path, the entire path tracing pipeline so that you can actually render out the same exact AOVs you'd expect from another software if you want to use Unreal at a visual effects studio. Otherwise, for the rest of us, these are just focused on the best, highest quality while also being the fastest rendering presets that I can possibly create. So they're all packaged up into one place. As far as materials go, materials can be a really big sticking point, like I said, because you're using these game dev concepts to try to solve creative problems. And a big part of a big sticking point for a lot of people is you don't know what you don't know. Can sound a little obvious, but when you're in the material graph, you might know the creative output that you're aiming for, but you might not know how to pull it off when you're using Unreal's tools. So what I did is I created one master cheat sheet, one master template called the materials cheat sheet, which will help you create advanced master materials quicker and easier than ever before. It's every node that I've ever found helpful inside of Unreal, and I'm putting it all together in one place. This is 2 years of my journey compiled together to create one single file that you can now download, Super simple, super easy, but that is the work that went behind it, and that is the sort of expertise that you're getting. It's that sort of wisdom that I wish I had when I was first starting, and you get that completely for free when you sign up for Unreal Fundamentals. We also have blueprints. So we have an entire system and framework called Blueprints for Beginners. A lot of people think of blueprints as this really technical thing. I like to think of it as a creative tool. So I think you can actually make some really cool artist-friendly blueprints. We go through many examples, how to use blueprints to build environments, how to use them to create sparks and effects, just like we did here in War of Being. I've used them to animate decals, and these aren't mind-blowing, crazy setups. These are really simple, really fast to execute frameworks, so you can learn blueprints in a matter of days, and you can start building your own tools so that you have more creative freedom when you're building environments and creating effects inside of Unreal. Blueprints is definitely a topic that a lot of people get confused over, and I totally get it. It was very, very confusing, to tell you the truth, at the beginning, but I've gone through enough. I think I now have a really strong framework to teach this in a matter of minutes, as opposed to a matter of days or even months, which would have been the case when I didn't really have a firm grasp on it. And again, blueprints are exactly what you would use to create motion capture cameras and bring those inside of Unreal. We're basically just plugging different inputs into different places. You don't need to know complex math, and you don't need to know coding. You just need to understand logic and programming logic. And that, again, when I say the word programming, a lot of people can get a little bit nervous about it, but it's if-then statements. It's if this happens, then take this data and plug it in here, or take this data and plug it in here. It really is, we're just drawing lines between different nodes to create really simple frameworks and really simple tools. But by knowing how to do this, it really opens up a lot of creative abilities in your tool set. So that is Blueprints for Beginners. And then what I think is the coolest, because I'm a compositor and my background was as a compositing supervisor on Dungeons and Dragons. And before I felt like cinema was my art form, for a very long time, I felt like compositing really was like my art and my calling. I still feel like that to some degree. But the real purpose, and I think what my unique position is as someone who's learned Unreal, is I haven't seen a lot of people who are able to make the full workflow from Unreal to final render, because the render you get out of Unreal can often look like a video game. It can look very graphic and very CG, but by using this template, our one-click compositing template, we give you a really simple, it's just a couple drag and drop sliders, and you just press one button to set up your shot, and it'll automatically tell you where it needs to go. It just handles everything for you and gives you really simple and easy to use sliders, so you can just get to the creative side of Unreal. And it's also extremely fast to render, and that was by design. So it takes about 1/4 of a second to render out a single frame in Nuke. So that was the fastest I could get it. But we're getting as close to real time as possible. And I even have a framework so that you can just batch all of these and press that one render button at the end of your day. So you don't have to be at your computer while you're rendering. You can take all of your renders from Unreal from the day, just click and drag over all of them, and then press one render button and render out your entire sequence, all using this compositing template. I've tried to take a lot of complex concepts and turn them into super simple, artist-friendly controls with the same methodology that I'm thinking through with all of these bonuses. So it really is just a couple clicks and a couple slides, and suddenly you'll have great looking photorealistic renders. And this is there for both Nuke and for After Effects. So regardless of what software you use, that is available for both. And if you wait till the end, I have a super cool bonus for if anyone today that signs up for Unreal Fundamentals. I have a really cool bonus for the compositing portion that I'll tell you about at the end. But this is one of the core tools, one of the core frameworks that I'm super excited about inside of Unreal. We also have the Unreal Glossary. I basically went through all of the complex game dev concepts and tried to write a no-nonsense, explanation, an explanation that my grandma could read and totally understand. So I wanted to demystify all of the complex game dev concepts, give you visual examples of the workflows and what it's supposed to look like when Unreal is working correctly, and give you those examples so it removes all those questions you have. Is this the right way? Should I be doing this? Am I naming this correctly? There's all these confusing things, but this gives you it's one document. You can find anything you need to know inside of Unreal and get a straightforward answer and just eliminate any of the confusion as you're going through Unreal. And I still go back to this as I'm updating it, for one, just to make sure it's more refined, but also just as a good reminder to myself of, okay, what is casting? If you know what casting is, you know how confusing that can be when you're first starting out. And just breaking down every part of Unreal into a written guide so that it just eliminates any confusion as you're going through your journey. The other thing is we send out lesson recaps. So a lot of people can get started, they'll get going for the first couple days, but then they start to drift off, and usually it's because they don't have someone holding them accountable. If you think about when you were a kid, this really hit me, was your parents, how do they teach you to brush your teeth? They probably have to just keep telling you, because just naturally, it's not something you do. You already have your same habits and routines. So your parents come in and say, hey, did you brush your teeth today? No. Okay, you go brush your teeth. The next day you forget, hey, did you brush your teeth? No, you go do it. And it's because a lot of us need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. It's not like you need to learn how to brush your teeth in a brand new way. You just need to be reminded to do it every single day. And if you do that, if you have 30 minutes every day to put aside, then you can get through this entire system and this entire, the entire coursework, and do the project files, make your own art, make your own films along with me step by step. And you can do it in just a matter of 21 days, or about 3 weeks. And we really tried to reverse engineer from that point. And every single day, you'll get an email from me and from Unreal Fundamentals holding you accountable, telling you everything you need to know, reminding you of hotkeys, of what templates you should be using, of the workflows that are important for this week's lessons. And it's just gonna give you constant reminders and updates so you never get left behind. Even if you skip one day, you can go back to that email, learn everything you needed to, rewatch that video, maybe spend 60 minutes that day if you missed 30 minutes the prior day. And this is why, for the few of you that are still around at this point, it's probably because you are actually taking this seriously. You might want to level up and try to get that job at a visual effects studio in 2024. This is specifically designed to get you up and running and literally give you the exact skill set and the exact tools that you need to know to be able to work as a visual effects artist and integrate yourself into any of those pipelines, because they're going to be going through these same exact things. Be really curious what the training looks like internally at visual effects studios. But what I do know is that this is the exact training that I wish I had, and this would have prepared me to be working at a visual effects studio after just 21 days. And that's the thing, if you were to start today, you would already know Unreal by the first week of January. Just think about that. Think of how far ahead you could be from everyone else. So many people are thinking about doing this. So many people are considering and like, well, I'll do it after Christmas. Well, maybe next year. Oh yeah, I'll make that my New Year's resolution. By the end of 2024, I'll learn Unreal finally. But if you are the type of person who wants, to actually get that jump ahead and, you value your time, then this is exactly, this accountability system will make sure that 21 days from today that you'll be prepared and know everything you need to know to start making films inside of Unreal. And then lastly, one of my the coolest things more recently, I think, is you'll get full access to our Discord. This is really designed to be a community of filmmakers and visual effects artists just like you, to both support you and help you troubleshoot, get through any problems you have along the way, but also a way to get creative feedback from both myself and from a lot of the other, I'll say experts in the group. There are quite a few people that are now weeks into this. Nate is awesome. He's making his own films and kind of showing us and bringing us in with him as he's making that. We're also trying to give feedback as we can. But the real goal is to make a super collaborative community. One of my favorite parts about the Unreal community is the community. It's all the people. It's that drive and that passion and that artistic vision, and also that willingness to help other people. So you'll also get access to this Discord to get personal feedback from me, from other people in the group, and to help you through any of your troubleshooting along the way. So Unreal Fundamentals itself, you'll get the project files, you'll get 15 hours of video, you'll get the render presets, the one-click compositing template, the material cheat sheet, the blueprints for beginners cheat sheet, the accountability emails, and the beginner's glossary. And a new thing that we made just recently was the beginner's hotkeys, hotkeys for cinematics, so that you can get even faster in Unreal, especially for those of you that are really focused and have that drive to start working on set. Getting really fast at the hotkeys inside of Unreal is that one, it's a great way to make sure that you're leveling up and you're fast inside of Unreal. So yeah, so we have two options. Today we're on sale for the next, through the end of the weekend. So through Sunday, we have a sale going on right now. You'll get everything that I talked about today. And on top of that, you can start for, normally it's $500, but you can get it today for $397, or you can get started for just $99 and you pay as you go. It just turns into monthly payments as you're going. I just want to make sure that this is accessible for everybody, but I also wanted to make sure that I'm actually delivering the value and making something that will truly solve all of your problems as you're trying to learn Unreal. So if you want to try this out, go to unrealforvfx.com/fundamentals. You'll find the link. Just scroll all the way to the bottom of the page and you'll see a button that will let you get started. That's the way to do it. But if you're here, I have a special bonus for people that are just on this call right now. It's actually going to expire after today. So it's not going on for the weekend with the rest of the sale. It's just for the couple of you that are on this course right now. Let's make sure we're pulling it up. All right, so we have Unreal Fundamentals. That's one part of the program. But like I said, my background is in feature film compositing, and I took a poll on YouTube. Maybe some of you responded. Let me know if you did. But I found out, I asked everyone, what do you use for compositing? And 1 in 10 people, only 1 in 10 people, I should say, knew how to use Nuke. And only 10% of people are using Nuke to comp their renders. 25% of people said, what is compositing? And didn't even know what compositing is, which I don't blame you. If you don't know what compositing is, it's just Photoshop for video. Instead of doing a single frame, you're doing it to multiple frames. And we use compositing to add lens effects and imperfections to our CG renders. But if you don't know how to use Nuke, that also means that only 1 in 10 of you could even work or know the tools to work at a Hollywood visual effects studio, because those studios are exclusively using Nuke for all of their compositing. This was one false belief that I had when I first started out, going all the way back to those high school days. I was convinced that eventually, if I was good enough in After Effects, that someone would hire me for my After Effects skills. But the truth is, you really do need to know Nuke if you want to start working at big visual effects studios. I've never seen an After Effects license at any of the studios that I've worked at. I'm sure they're somewhere, but everyone is using Nuke. So I wanted to make a special training for people out there, whether you're in Unreal Fundamentals already or you're brand new to Unreal and you're brand new to Nuke, and you want to learn the best practices and the best methods and learn what they're doing at the biggest and best studios, so you can make yourself prepared for those jobs and you have all of the skills they're looking for, not just 1 or 2. And one of those big skills is compositing. So what I'm going to do is on December 23rd, I'm going to do a live 6-hour masterclass from Unreal to Nuke, how to do all of these complex compositing techniques that I used to try out and to craft this Mr. Freeze short film. We're using elements, we're doing depth of field, we have custom AOVs. We're basically going through and doing the traditional visual effects pipeline and reimagining it to be fast, nimble, and creative when we're using Nuke to render out our Unreal renders. So that is going to be happening on December 23rd. I basically want to share all of the techniques that I've learned and the ones that are most useful to all of you as you're approaching Nuke. The expectation is that you are a complete beginner at Nuke. So if you do not know Nuke, this is for you. This is to level your skills up. And again, make yourself ready for that next job, and just to keep increasing your skills so that you have this brand new skill set before next year. You're already prepared by the time 2024 starts, and you're ahead of everyone else that's been considering doing this but hasn't actually taken the leap themselves. So if you want to join and unlock Hollywood visual effects for yourself, I need to change this link. So I'm just gonna do that right now. It's actually checkout.unrealforvfx.com/nuke. That is for those of you that are in the Unreal fundamentals. But for those of you that are brand new to Unreal for Visual Effects and the Unreal Fundamentals course, if you sign up today at any price point today, you will get a free ticket to this Unreal to Nuke masterclass. So for free, you'll get full access. Normally, I think what I'm gonna start charging this class, I'm gonna price it at $250 in the future, but for anyone that's interested, maybe you already know Unreal, but you wanna figure out this missing piece, I'm not gonna charge $250 for this first one. It's gonna be $149 for anyone signing up themselves. So if you're in Unreal Fundamentals and wanna give it a shot, you wanna add Nuke into your arsenal and get a really clear understanding of exactly how this works, this is going to be the best spot. We'll have a live Q&A. It's going to be like this, but I want to do it in a Zoom meeting so you can ask your questions. We can go over topics. You can get really in the weeds and ask me specific questions. So if you want to sign up for this, I would recommend write down your questions beforehand. Let's make sure that by the end of this, you have everything answered and you'll be able to you'll be comfortable using Nuke by the end of it. I do feel like because I've used Nuke for such a long time that I can definitely get you up to speed with everything you need to know to take your Unreal renders and make them look as good as Hollywood visual effects, and give you all of the templates and resources that I use every single day, including that one-click template that will be included in this package, but you'll get all of that for free if you sign up today. So that is that's what we're doing. That's the new thing for anyone looking to level up. Otherwise, Unreal Fundamentals is here for anyone that wants to join. Again, that sale is going on for just a couple more days. The real thing here is if you want to get the shortcut and speed up your journey and just go a lot faster, have that mentorship, have that guidance, get creative feedback along the way, have all your answers, all of your questions answered. The real goal here is to have anyone, regardless of skill level, whether you're a complete beginner or you're at a visual effects studio already and you know these other 3D softwares or other visual effects software, the goal is to really take you from a beginner in Unreal to someone who can master it for visual effects and filmmaking. And that is every single bonus that I've created is all aimed at accomplishing that task. It's to make the job of learning Unreal easy so that it feels like as fun as watching a show on Netflix. And we're trying to eliminate all of the hard work that goes into it where you're resisting and like, yesterday, I tried this and it didn't work and I'm stuck. You'll never get stuck as long as you're in the Discord and asking questions. And I even forgot to mention, we also built in an AI search engine. So you can actually search through the results and the captions of any of the videos. So if you're wondering like, man, there was that lesson on path tracing, but what are the settings I need to enable inside of my project to enable path tracing? You can just search path tracing in the search bar and you'll have those answers come up. I wonder if I have that example here. I was trying to get everything ready before the class, but you know what, actually, we can just do it live right here, just to show you behind the curtain and show you inside of Unreal for VFX. This is exactly what you'll get when you sign up. We have 11 chapters that take you through everything. There's over 90 lessons and more coming in January. Like I said, we're gonna add vehicles and plane battles. And then in February, we're gonna add even more character animation lessons. So there's never been a better time. You'll get lifetime updates when you join today. You'll get all of those future updates. But as you can see, there's a lot of different videos and it can be hard to find answers sometimes. So all you'd have to do is just click on any video here, and then we'll get this search bar at the top. So I could type in enable path tracing if I needed to do that in my project. And you can read through the captions and see exactly what that time code is going to link you to. So I can see to enable path tracing, you need to enable these. So I'll click on this video. I have this nice time code to show me where it's gonna, where we're gonna jump to. And you can see it immediately jumps to that time code. And right here, I have all of the answers. I know how to enable path tracing in my project. And it was that quick. Instead of Googling and doing all these things and guessing, is this the right resource? Hey, this is from Unreal 4. Does this still work in Unreal 5? All of these questions that you might have along the way. Really just I personally tried to think of every problem that I experienced as I was going through and learning Unreal, and tried to think, how can I just solve it for you to get you right to the creative side of filmmaking, which is why the last chapter is filmmaking. We're gonna make that saber battle step by step, show you all of the intricacies, show you how to add dynamic particle effects, and all of the best secrets that I have to add character animation. And like I said, very soon we'll also have our dogfight, where you'll learn how to create your own planes flying through the air with this really beautiful lighting. You'll learn how to make that completely from scratch by the end of this course. So check that out. Again, it's unrealforvfx.com/fundamentals. That's where you can go to grab this. And for any of you out there that are already in Unreal Fundamentals, thanks for supporting. It's been super awesome. But I just want to bring this up as well. If you go to checkout.unrealforvfx.com/nuke, that will give you access to the Unreal to Nuke Masterclass. That's how you can sign up and reserve your seat today. And then for everyone else, if you sign up for Unreal Fundamentals, you'll get this for free. You'll get a free ticket along with everything else, along with all of the bonuses and all of the lessons, everything like that. So that's what I got. Now I would love to switch over to Q&A. If you have any questions from anything, whether it's about Unreal Fundamentals, it's about your own work, if you want me to take a look at a shot you did, whatever it is, I'm gonna open it up for 30 more minutes. I got this this clock right here. So yeah, we'll set the clock. We'll go for 30 more minutes to answer any question that you have, Unreal related or otherwise. Maybe it's career advice. Maybe you want me to dive in a little bit deeper about any of the topics I jumped in today. Or if you want any more interesting resources, I'm happy to give anything that I've learned to you. So just throw it in the chat, and then yeah, we'll switch over there. And yeah, just so you know, go over to unrealforvfx.com/fundamentals, and this will give you everything that you've seen today, including the Unreal to Nuke Masterclass. Just scroll to the bottom of the page to check out, and that sale will be done by the end of the week. So if you're thinking about it, now is the time. You will get those lifetime updates. You'll get access to the Discord. You'll get all the cheat sheets, all the templates. You'll get the community support, and you can even get feedback on your own work when you're part of the Discord. And it's not just here when we're live. It's anytime throughout the week from anybody. So check those links out. I'll also put those in the chat. But let's switch back. And let's start reading some comments. What do you say? So just so you have the links, I'm going to put these in the chat. So just give me one sec, and then... All right, so the ones on the bottom you can actually click. These are the two checkout links. So there you have it. I'm going to pin that. So grab that today if you want to check that out. But I will take any questions, so let me know. Throw them in the chat. I'll get through them one by one, but definitely let me know. All right, so we'll go through. Like I said, I have not looked at the comments at all yet, so if you have a question that you really want answered, just repeat that question. Just type it in again, because that'll just be a little bit easier to find. But I'll start going through some of the comments now, yeah, we'll go through that and try to get everyone. If you have a question, I'll try to get through everyone in the next 30 minutes. All right, so I'm just trying to look back. All right, so I started 3D. Cool. I'm seeing one person, Polychrome. I just saw that you mentioned like Rococo. is expensive, which it is. Rococo is definitely expensive. I will say, if you know the retargeting tools inside of Unreal, you definitely do not need Rococo to start making your own shorts. Obviously, I think it can really help. I think that's a way to level up your skills. But right now, the Move 1 is an AI motion capture where you can just import video. You can use one single video from your iPhone and you can get animation data from that. If you have several iPhones, you'll get better quality because you'll get several pieces of footage with different perspective. It'll make it easier for them to understand the 3D space that you're in. So if you have 2 iPhones, or 4 is even better, you can use Move 1 and then retarget those onto any of your characters, and that should solve any animation problems. But yeah, personally, I'm going to use Rococo suits because I have them now. We got them for that project. They definitely are great. I'm not going to lie. And I'm a big fan of their work. So, all right. Cool. Is it all right for hand-keyed animation and not just motion capture? This is an awesome question. So I think this goes to character animation. Can you do character animation inside of Unreal? The answer is yes. The answer is absolutely yes. And I'm actually super excited because right now we're building some really awesome resources to make it insanely easy to start doing character animation inside of Unreal. I don't want to spoil exactly what we're building, but if you can imagine this, it's just going to be ready-made control rigs for any character. That's what we're trying to build right now. It's going to be released for free with the course, and actually for everybody. So that's why I'm just going to wait until that's ready and polished before we release it. But if you're wanting to get into character animation, now is the best time to learn Unreal, because in the middle of January, we're going to have these control rigs ready so you can apply character animation. And that's going to be the last thing we add to Unreal Fundamentals, is how can you make custom character animation without Mixamo, without motion capture, without the other resources. So for the few of you that really love character animation, you're already an animator, or you just love animation and want to express that inside of Unreal, the way you do it is through control rig, and we'll have those control rigs coming out in about a month. I'm super excited about it. Yeah, got some really cool people who are giving their time to help out on that. It's going to be really cool. You can start with the goal to make a film and finally make a game. Cool. Does the course have subtitles in Portuguese? It does not right now. This is something on our backlog. So the way we're doing our captions, we basically had to custom code our entire video platform in order to make the subtitles work, so that you can search through the subtitles and through the captions of the video. So we're working on it is the answer, but it will not be a thing that's done this year. So it's just in English for now, but I would say by March of next year, I think that's a realistic timeline. We'll definitely have multi-language captions by then. It's a thing we're actively working on, and we're going to add. What about DaVinci Resolve Studio for your work? I think DaVinci Resolve is super powerful. It's not my expertise in terms of compositing, and I do use it for grading, and we graded all of the Last of Us film in Resolve. I think eventually we'll add that, but no promises for now. To me, I want to focus on how to take the Hollywood visual effects workflows and bring those into Unreal. And to me, that's going to be through Nuke. Nuke is what's going to allow you to render out 100 shots instead of 1 or 2. It's the same thing for After Effects. You can render out several shots in a row. You could batch render like 20 shots and have them render overnight. But I find After Effects is slower than Nuke, and it doesn't give you the customization, and it's not as good for rendering pipelines. So for all those reasons, I personally use Nuke. And to anyone who's wondering, some people are under the impression that Nuke only comes in a paid version, and this is not true. Nuke non-commercial is completely free. You can download it today, right now, off of Nuke's website, off of the Foundry's website, rather. So thefoundry.com, those are the people that make it. They're Adobe for, Adobe made Photoshop, the Foundry made Nuke. So yeah, check that out. You can download it for free and get started. Compositing Academy is a great tutorial. They have great tutorials on, he has great tutorials on his channel. Sorry, I'm getting, after talking for like an hour and a half, you know, now the ums and ahs are finally coming back. So anyway, check out Compositing Academy. He has some great beginner intro to compositing tutorials that at least get you started if you're completely new. But if you want to join and you want to get the Unreal to Nuke Masterclass, we're going to teach you Nuke from the ground up, and then we're going to show you exactly how it fits to work with Unreal and how you can use it to render out all of your shots from Unreal with just a single click, and then eventually how to customize it and add detail and do some really cool things. We'll go into all of the AOVs and the techniques that I would use every day at a Hollywood visual effects studio. I want to show you how those workflows will how you would actually apply those workflows, and that's exactly what we'll cover in the Unreal to Nuke Masterclass. So just a reminder, unrealforvfx.com/fundamentals. If you want to grab Unreal Fundamentals, again, it's on sale for this weekend only, but if you sign up today, you'll get a free ticket to join our Unreal to Nuke Masterclass. Otherwise, if you already are familiar with Unreal, but you really want to take your renders to the next level and add that, that polish and that sheen and that Hollywood look, a lot of people, the point of the template is to basically combine that all into a couple sliders, and it's something I'm extremely proud of because I think it's one of the best Nuke templates I've made, and I have made a lot of templates throughout the years. So cool. I'm gonna scroll to the bottom, ask some questions. For those who are already part of Fundamentals, will the Nuke Live class be free? At the moment, it will not, Hussein, although I appreciate that. It's just going to be for people that are joining today. And the reason why is because it's just going to be a separate class that we're doing. I might bundle it together with some of the future courses that we're looking at building, but it is separate from Unreal Fundamentals. So if you want to check it out, that's the place to do it. And you have a couple days. That's going to happen on December 23rd. So you have 9 days. I'll send out some emails so you guys at least get some reminders to see if it's right for you. But that's what we're doing right now. All right. Deepak Raj, cool. You took the Unreal Connector course. That's sweet. Cool, but I'm not used to VFX pipeline, so I wonder if the 6-hour training will add to the Unreal Fundamentals or it's a separate purchase. Yeah, so just to be clear, that the Unreal to Nuke Masterclass is a separate purchase unless you get Unreal Fundamentals today. If you purchase Unreal Fundamentals today, you'll get a free ticket for that masterclass. Otherwise, normally we're gonna do it for $250, but for those of you signing up for this first one, we're gonna be doing it for $149. So that is going to be, that's the masterclass there. And yeah, if you sign up, you'll get all your questions answered. I'm gonna give all of my best secrets away. You'll be learning directly from a compositing supervisor. Compositing is it's the thing I've spent the longest doing in my life is compositing. So super excited to share everything I've learned and how to apply that to Unreal. I think you guys will get a lot out of it. We're not doing any giveaways just because a lot of people have spent the money to get in, and I've also spent a lot of time to make sure that this really is worth it. I truly do believe, I tried to make the course that I would personally purchase if I was trying to learn Unreal for the first time and actually deliver on the promise of teaching you Unreal. And also to anyone out there, just so you know, we have a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you have any regrets or anything like that, it does happen, or life gets busy. Some things do happen. If you're here, it's because you actually want to make the difference and improve your skill set and level up. But just to give you a peace of mind, just shoot us an email at learn@unrealforvfx.com, which is our support email, and just ask us for a refund within 30 days and you'll get it immediately refunded to your account. We want to just make sure that you're supported along the way. I'm super passionate about filmmaking and Unreal. So I'm just trying to deliver the absolute best training and course out there. I think by now we've had some really cool testimonials from some people, some from complete beginners and other from studios like Sony ImageWorks, and people that are working at full production facilities and have taken this and they've used it to level up their skills and all that. So yeah, that's where you can get it. The links are in the comments. But yeah, let's go back to the questions. All right. Of the 4 subscriptions for Nuke, will the render version be enough to get what you recommend to learn? That's a little confusing, but I think the question is, there are several versions of Nuke out there. Will Nuke non-commercial do everything you need? The answer to that question is yes. You can render up to HD resolution using Nuke non-commercial. And this is definitely enough. I think when you're starting out, you should not be rendering things in 4K, personally. It's my personal opinion. Render out in HD, make sure they're good, render fast, and just focus on making sequences rather than making one shot perfect, especially when you're starting out. You want to just barrel into it and just start making films, making shots, and then throw out the ones you don't like. Start recreating that shot. Like, that's a good start, but man, what if I move the camera over here and I reframed it and we change the animation? That's the approach you should be taking for Unreal when you're learning filmmaking at the very beginning. You want to be quick, you want to be fast. So when we're doing that, Nuke non-commercial is perfect for this stage, and it's what I have been using up until War of Being. I used it for about a year and a half, up until War of Being, to do all of my work out of Nuke. And the templates work in Nuke non-commercial. All of that works in Nuke non-commercial. So, you'll be covered if you go there. Hey Void, dude, so super excited. Saw you join. That's sweet. Can you consider breaking the new class into 2 separate days? It starts at 11 p.m. here. I should also mention, Hussein, because that is a good idea. We'll also, you'll get a replay of the course. So if you sign up for that Nuke to Unreal Masterclass, you will get a replay, a recording of that masterclass sent to you at the end. So you'll just have it forever. You can download it. It'll be yours personally. We're not going to stream it. This one in particular, because it's very specific and it's for those people that are really trying to find out how to work at a visual effects studio or how to take their renders and get them to that Hollywood visual effects level. So in that case, we're just giving it right to you. If you signed up, you'll get the full recording, and you can even write in some questions. I'm just thinking about this now, but maybe I'll even have a thing where you can write in some questions beforehand to make sure it gets answered by the end and make sure that we are answering any questions, any problems you've had in the past, or anything that you're confused about if you've been trying to use Nuke in the past, but it hasn't quite clicked either. That might be a really good solution, but cool. Christian, we're gonna keep this stream live for 2 more days until the sale is over. So thanks for that question. So yeah, it's gonna be online for 2 more days. So check it out tomorrow if you want. We'll leave it up, but I am gonna take it down afterwards because of this, because I'm kind of talking about limited time things. I just don't want that on the channel forever. So check it out, rewatch it, write down any resources that you could use for your own projects. Yeah, super excited to see what you make if you download any of the free resources and start making your own films. What software do you recommend for motion capture cleanup? So how we did motion capture cleanup on War of Being was actually entirely inside of Unreal Engine. So we made control rigs inside of Unreal, and we were able to reanimate all of those directly inside the engine itself. I actually might be able to just pull this up really quick. I'll just screen share to show you the time code, because I think for some of you it might be, it's a specific question that I think a lot of people ask, is how the heck do I clean up my motion capture? Because one thing that you might not know about motion capture, why I recommend using Mixamo animations instead of motion capture, is because when you see Avatar, like Avatar 2, Way of the Water, I think a lot of people just assume, whoa, it's like the best visual effects studio in the world. I bet they have the best motion capture volume, and they just capture it live on set. They chuck it into their CG software, which is Maya, and they render it out and it looks great, right? But the answer, it's totally not how it works. They have senior level animators spending days and sometimes weeks on one single shot to really bring that performance out. And it takes a talented senior animator a lot of times to really push your motion capture to the next level, especially when you have facial animations. So one specific tip that I would recommend is try to use characters that don't have a human face. If they have a helmet, or they have some of the characters are robots, or there's like that bear character that I showed earlier on from the Paragon characters that you can download for free off the marketplace. Those are gonna be your best characters because you don't have to worry about motion capture. So cool. If we look here, this is briefly walking through how we did motion capture during War of Being. So I think it's right here. You can see that this was sort of how we had the motion capture when we brought it into Unreal directly. If it was untouched and we didn't clean up anything, the hands weren't aligned, some of the poses didn't feel strong. There was a lot of issues with the motion capture, and honestly, we cleaned up every single shot in that 5-minute short film. There were over 120 final shots, and we had to touch up the animation in most of them. So motion capture is not always all it's cracked up to be, just so you know, for beginners. But at the same time, you can also frame around their feet. Another tip is in the same vein of don't have faces, use helmets. Another thing is don't have your characters hold swords, or if they do, have them hold it in one hand, because then you don't have to worry about motion capture so much if you have like a lightsaber or whatever it is in one hand if you're single wielding it, as opposed to like having two hands on your sword. Two hands is where it gets tricky. And then you can see in this clip here how we're cleaning it up is we're going to bake our animation to a control rig. So we built a control rig that way, and then we're able to reanimate our hands like this, and then we can even parent one hand to the sword, and then you can have them connect together just like you'd expect in real life. That is the approach. That's what you do with control rigs inside of Unreal. And that's exactly why we're building this awesome multi-purpose control rig that we're gonna put out for free for everybody. So you'll be able to have a control rig for any character that you want in the future. So I'm super excited about it. Lots of cool stuff in the works. I hope no one thought that with Unreal Fundamentals that once they bought it, that it was done. We're going to keep adding to it, and I'm not going to stop until it truly teaches everything that you need to have a fundamental skill set inside of Unreal. Once I've hit that point, I think we're good to move on to other stuff, but we'll continue updating it until it truly gives you that learning path of going from a beginner to someone who really understands Unreal, not just on a technical level, but at a creative level, learning lighting, learning blueprints, learning materials, learning animation, and learning filmmaking, ultimately. So that's the goal there. So cool. We'll jump back into the questions. How does the workflow differ from Unreal for virtual production and Unreal for VFX studios? That is a great question, Deepak. So yeah, let me actually think. What is the difference between Unreal for virtual production and Unreal for visual effects? I think if I had to give you one answer, Unreal for virtual production has to be incredibly optimized. So it's the optimization of your environments. And let me explain why. So when you're doing virtual production, you're on an LED screen, you're surrounded by this giant LED wall. This is the big problem, and it's why Unreal is the tool for this job, is that when we're talking about the old school traditional side of rendering, oftentimes it can take, if your renders take 1 hour per frame, it'll take you 24 hours to render out a single second of footage, because there's 24 frames per second in cinema. So that's the old school way. So it would take you 24 hours, 1 full day, to only get 1 second of footage. And that's not a great trade-off. We have to flip that entirely on its head for virtual production. So instead of taking 24 hours to render a second, we need to render 24 frames in 1 second. So the render target is completely different. And what's unique about virtual production is that you now need to start rendering. It's not a 4K image. You're essentially rendering like a 28K image, because it's this wall is surrounding you entirely. So it's really stretched on its side. So you have to be incredibly optimized. We are adding some new lessons. There's going to be a new console variables and optimization chapter coming out. It's part of this next batch of videos that's coming along with how to make your own dogfight, how to make your own plane battle. It's going to be included with this new batch of videos on how you can start optimizing things a little bit further. But if you want to get started, the best way to start profiling your scene and start to understand how long it takes for your scene to render is, write this down as well, is type in stat GPU into Unreal. This will show you everything that, it'll break down every single rendering feature, and it'll show you how long it took to render for that frame. So oftentimes these things are taking like 0.05 milliseconds to happen. but sometimes it's like 0.05 milliseconds. And other times, if you have a bunch of lights in your scene and they're casting shadows, sometimes that can take 6 or 7 or 10 or 20 milliseconds per frame. And ultimately, then your virtual production environment just won't be able to run. If it doesn't render out 24 frames per second, then it's going to stutter on the wall and the illusion of virtual production totally falls apart and it just doesn't work. So you need to be incredibly optimized, because you also need to make an environment that can be adjusted live on the fly on stage. So that was my job, was being on stage, making those adjustments for the filmmakers, taking on their creative requests and applying them live on set. I almost called it live compositing a lot of times, because we're taking these ideas and then we're there on stage and on set, and we're adding lights in Unreal. So if they had like a really blue light that was, you know, the rim light behind their head, let's say, and they had a really orange key light in front of them, we could take that idea and say, okay, well, yeah, let's add a blue light on the tops of all the buildings behind the character. And then let's add in some like orange flame lights in front of them. And we could add like flickering and even like throw in a fire element, because we just built out a small library of elements over the course of several shows. So you could just throw those in on the fly. But if your scene isn't optimized, you can't make those sort of creative adjustments. So sometimes I was a little bit handicapped that some environments weren't as optimized as others, so I couldn't really make any creative changes, because that would break that environment, and suddenly it would take longer than it needed to. It would take about 30. What's the best way to say that? Basically, we're not hitting that render target of 24 frames per second. It would take longer to render out. So you'd only be able to render out like 15 frames in a second. So it would be stuttering, and it's just not good. No one likes it, and you look like you're not doing a good job when that happens. So it's something we really keep an eye on, and we're constantly checking the performance, constantly profiling our scene using Stat GPU and Stat Unit, and that should get you started with optimizing and profiling your scene. All right, cool. So Stat GPU. That's totally it. Hussein. So will the skills you learn from the course apply to game making or architecture? I'll tell you this, it 100% applies to architecture and ArchViz. I think that's a really cool industry. I've actually done a couple freelance gigs in ArchViz, interestingly enough, because it's, for some it can be a pretty lucrative freelance opportunity. But when you're using it and creating ArchViz inside of Unreal, it just becomes so fast to do it. You can do some really complex work and create sequences and videos for your clients when they're probably used to still frames. You can really wow your clients by using Unreal instead of using Maya, where you might not have enough time to render out sequences because it just takes so long. So yeah, I definitely would say this directly applies to ArchViz. You'll learn a lot of new lighting techniques, rendering techniques. That one-click compositing template will totally apply and make your shots look even better and more photorealistic. So your clients are like, wait, is this a photo or is this a render? That's the reaction that you want from all your clients, ideally. And that's the exact effect that the one-click comp template has on your scenes. So does the course cover destruction using chaos? The course does not cover destruction, and I'll tell you why. To me, chaos destruction, I think, is more of a feature than a workflow. So I did not focus on that. However, we do talk about physics and how the physics work inside of Unreal. I made a couple cool things with interactive physics, sometimes on the characters themselves. So in War of Being, our characters had interactive it's actually called, there's like a character physics menu. The acronym is PHAT, or FAT, the physics asset. I think that's what the acronym, they're getting funny with their acronyms. But that is, so we cover physics, we cover how to interact with objects and move things around dynamically. If you think of like Grand Theft Auto, GTA, it's that style of physics where you're able to push things around, that sort of thing. And that would be pretty cool. So, Julia, sweet, yeah. Seeing that you're in the course, that's super cool. Do we cover procedural generation? Right now, I am a little bit nervous, I'll say, to make any content about PCG or the procedural generation because they're making some really drastic changes to this system. And I have a funny feeling the entire workflow is going to be different in the next version of Unreal. It sounds like they're making a lot of changes to make it a lot more artist friendly and a lot less confusing. So it's going to be good in the long run. But that being said, I'm just a little bit nervous. I think it's going to get outdated really quickly. So yeah, there are some good tutorials out there. One of my old coworkers, actually, his name is Borislav. He has a channel called The Lazy Contradiction, which is his nice cheeky username on YouTube. I would definitely check out his channel. He's been doing a lot of PCG content lately, and he's a really good tech artist, so he's a great guy to learn from as well. So I would check that out, The Lazy Contradiction. Another thing to write down. I just realized you guys can't see the notebook, but that would be the best place to look. Do you live link the motion capture in your scene? To anyone who doesn't know, live link is just a, I'll call it a plugin inside of Unreal that lets you take things from other softwares and have them update live in your viewport. And when I say live, I truly mean live. So live link is the thing that we use on set in virtual production to track the camera as it moves left and right, because we need to have an instant connection between the two. And if your motion capture software is really, really fast, we were using Shogun with Vicon, that is where we get to. Cool. And Wendell Nugent, gotcha. Oh, I should do this. Sorry to anyone that has gone to that link. You actually need to go to unrealforvfx.com. Let me update the link for anyone going to Unreal Fundamentals so you can get the discount for today. And again, to anyone who's kind of joining late, we have a sale running on unrealforvfx.com for the Fundamentals course. And if you join today, you'll also get a free ticket to our live Unreal to Nuke Masterclass. If you want to learn Nuke and level up your skills and learn the tools that they're using at Visual Effects Studios, this is going to be the best way where you can learn that tool, and you can also see exactly how Unreal plugs in to Nuke and how to use it to your advantage to make better renders and make them really, really fast, because I'm going to give away my compositing template in that live course. But yeah. All right, so let me fix this link though. Yeah, just give me one sec. We need to make sure that the coupon code is in the link. So that was the issue there. So let me just update that for you, and then we'll get back to a couple more questions. It's been 30 minutes, but I'll answer like five more minutes if that's cool with people. Let me just test out this link, make sure it's all working. Awesome. All right, so sorry, that link was broken. I'm putting in a new link to anyone. Oh man, now I got like this. All right, so that's, I just made a new post. So if you were seeing the $497 price point, make sure to use that new link, or just go to unrealforvfx.com and hit the courses button, and you'll get there. You'll be able to get everything for the lowest price possible. And yeah, that sale is ending at the end of this weekend, so you have until Sunday to decide. And if you do join in the next couple days here, you will get lifetime updates, just so you know, whether you do the payment plan and you do it and you get started for 99 bucks today, you'll get lifetime updates as long as you complete through the whole thing. That will you'll get lifetime updates, and we are continuing to update the course. Cool. JC, good to see you. Awesome. Thanks for joining. I'm curious to know your YouTube set and how do you get the look on your stream. Real quick, there's nothing magical. This is just my house. So this is like, I have movie posters everywhere. But I'm streaming through my Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera with a real lens. So that might be why it looks a little different. Let me see if I got the box here. Anyway, I think it's an Elgato Streamlink 4K is the thing I'm using. And it lets you just plug in your camera directly into your PC as a webcam feed. So that's a fun fact. Try that out. Lighting also helps quite a bit. So I have a big ass light above me that's giving a nice soft light. So that's probably what you're seeing. Cool. Awesome. Hussein, dude, that means so much. I know you also teach a lot of people Unreal. So coming from you, that means a lot. That you've learned a ton from the course. So that really makes me happy. And hopefully anything you learn can be passed on. If anything, the free YouTube videos are also not going away to anyone who's at all concerned. And just so you guys know, like, why I have a paid course to anyone that's a little bit weary, or sometimes that can feel a little bit dodgy. Just to be fully crystal clear about why I'm putting this out, is for the same reasons I talked about earlier. I want to make bigger and better films inside of Unreal, and I want to work with better and bigger, better artists too. So I want to work with the most talented people I can, and I don't want those people working for me for free. So literally, there's no master plan here. I'm taking all of the money that I make off of Unreal for VFX, and it's all used as to be reinvested just into making films. So if you go through and you purchase the course, just so you know, it will go directly back into making better films, and I'm gonna keep using that to teach new lessons on the YouTube channel. I grew up, I was self-taught on YouTube, so it's not going away anytime soon or anything like that. I love sharing everything that I can about VFX and filmmaking. It is my #1 love in life, as hopefully you can tell. I get pretty jazzed up, but that's exactly like that. That's the game plan. That's why we put all this together, is to be able to make bigger and better films all inside of Unreal. Do I use the lens calibration plugin for Unreal? I do on, from time to time. I think they got I could be wrong about this. I thought there was a pretty nice update lately, but typically I'm actually applying lens distortion in Nuke. Although, definitely the lens calibration plugin is great to use. I want to try to integrate that into my workflow and see if that is better or faster. So I haven't messed around with it enough on the visual effects and animation side. So I'll definitely try that out. Cool. Cool. So, the Nuke Masterclass ads for people. Oh, the Lazy Contradiction rebranded. I need to check out Borislav's channel. It's been a second. And so anyone that joins today, only today, we have the free, you'll get a ticket for free to our Unreal to Nuke Masterclass. So grab any of those links in the description. If you just came into the stream, that's gonna be the best place to look for it. Okay, so I think that's everything. If I didn't answer your question, sorry about that. Type it in right now and I might get to it, but I'm gonna wrap up the live stream. Thanks so much for hanging out for the last 2 hours, spending your night. I hope you guys have a great end of the year, a great 2024, and I hope that you can really take any of these resources, whether they're online on YouTube or you're trying to find more paid training just to level up and get more training for yourself. I think that's really what's going to differentiate all of us. I'm looking back and seeing like, man, I always set aside 5% of money for self-development. That's just what I've always done. I heard that advice. And I've heard that, like, no matter how much money you're making, you should always put that in. That served me very well. That I think that is one of the biggest reasons that I was able to kind of climb up at some of the visual effects studios, was learning all these different disciplines, not just mastering one pillar, but having all these different skills, becoming a well-rounded artist to make bigger and better films. So I hope you can do the same. If I can help you in any way possible, hit me up at josh@unrealforvfx.com, or leave comments on the videos. I'll try to check those out. But thanks so much. Thanks, Husin, Justin, Wendelin, 9X, everyone. Super appreciate you coming out here live. We might try another one of these in the new year, or possibly this weekend. I guess we'll see. But yeah, check out the links if you're interested. But otherwise, I'll see you next time on YouTube. All right, take it easy, y'all. See ya.